Aha, boom, boom. Aha, aha, boom, boom. Boom, boom, Haiti. All right, guys. All right, guys. Please take a seat. You're warmly welcome. And we have the incredible Professor Campbell in the house, But but I'm going to be introducing Prof later on. Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so we kick off our day. Just a little bit of some housekeeping, and then we get through the day. Yesterday we learned a few things. Please pass this around quickly. I think they're just about 10. Yesterday we learned these, so please pass it. No, you can push half here and the rest goes down, so it goes faster. So we all learned about Aquaba yesterday, right? And although I realized, some of us started telling people Aquaba because, Aquaba is welcome. So you are the one being welcomed. When someone say Aquaba, I think the best response is thank you. You're welcome. Thank you. So thank you is Medasi. Medasi. And when you are speaking somewhere, one of the best things you can always do is, how are you? Eti saying. And so if you don't say Eti saying, you're going to do boom boom 12 times. All right. So Eti.
Believe that we just take a faith walk with God. And we came to Ghana not knowing anybody and had to work through. So when Dr. Govey told us that, invited me to do a presentation on an experiential perspective, that's, how I can really say it. Every day walking in Ghana was just a new day for me and my wife and my family. So I have a 3-year-old daughter at the time. She's now 5. She's at school at this time. So we can start. Welcome to Ghana. Yes. Okay, you can start, please. So I'll go through my why, the how, and then I'll look at some of the cultural nuances. All right. So my why. When I was a child, I had my godfather, he had a book on Africa, a large book on Africa, and that changed my whole perspective. I think I was about 5. It showed me a number of the kingdoms, the Mali kingdom, the Benin kingdom, the Ashanti kingdom, and I saw the vast amount of wealth that was there. Also, my father was also very Afro-centric. He was an artist, a fine artist. So he always did a lot of work that looked at Africa. In fact, before he passed away, one of his major work was actually to look at the Middle Passage from Africa to the Caribbean. And that sparked an interest in me. I realized that, Africa wasn't the dark continent, as persons said. And I began to meet a lot of Africans along the way. In high school, I had a friend that she was born in Ghana. She's part Jamaican, part Ghana, and she's still my friend to this day. Also met persons from East Africa, Kenya, Somalia, South Africa, and I always found that there was a connection with, persons from Africa. Sometimes even closer than some of the persons that are in Jamaica, because all the persons that I've met in Africa from as a child, I still have conversations with them, whether on Facebook or on the phone. And my wife, she's also went to the university, but she swayed into entrepreneurship that she started to do natural products using shea butter and coconut oils and stuff. So we actually opened a business in Jamaica just before we left. And, we were getting our products into the pharmacies. And then we said, well, Africa is a place that has shea butter and coconut oil in abundance, It would be good to go there. And, we are Christians, so we prayed upon it. And we had some other issues that we were looking to go somewhere else. And we got the sign from our father. And we just decided, well, at first we were waiting for a specific amount of money. Because when we did the research, we, watched like Wadi Maya and other persons in Africa and some Jamaicans. And Ghana is just like Jamaica. The people are the same, the culture is the same, the food is the same. And one good thing is it's not so much caught up in economic shock and natural disaster. So there's no hurricanes here. And it's a larger country. So, we are researchers at heart because we do research. And so we looked at it and we said that, this is a place that we could be. So we were waiting for the money, we were doing investments and stuff. And then one day we looked at, we were reading a verse in the Bible. I can't pronounce that. Ecalistis. And it talks about, yeah, exactly. My wife will laugh now because it's very hard for me to pronounce that. And we just decided, well, that verse said that, the farmer doesn't wait until the rain to sow. And we just decided to just divest. So he just divest everything. And we tried to go to the travel agents. The travel agents didn't want to give us any information about going to Africa because, it's not easy for them. So we did our own thing online. Thankfully, we had a friend that just decided to go into travel agency, and she gave us some information. But the way the father did it, we weren't able to allow her to do it because every time she was trying to do the booking of the tickets, it wouldn't work for her, even though she had the system. So we had to do it ourselves. And when we did it ourselves, the ticket, usually, tickets go up in price each day. The ticket that we needed for that specific day, it stayed on that price. And then we left Jamaica. We were in contact with a Jamaican over here, and we were also in contact with a Ghanaian from a friend of a friend. So they gave us confidence that when we came over here, we contact them, they would assist us. But when we came here, they didn't care. They said, you're here now, they're surprised, and they didn't really give us any information. So that's our present, we had to just, with the help of God, just live. And, this is how I'm here today. And thankfully, God has been faithful because in a year and a half, I can say that I'm now a citizen of Ghana. My wife and I am now a citizen of Ghana. So, it's ready now? No? Okay, so that, the presentation is not there. So, I just have to say the cultural nuances. There are a number of interesting things in Ghana, especially when it comes to business, comparing to the West. The first thing coming here,
to Ghana. You spoke about getting through the ticket, buying tickets and all of that. How did you manage with accommodations and all that? I'm sure if I missed that.
Okay.
I mean, apart from getting here, you wanted to know.
The story is so long. I might have to write a book. But okay, so we went through Panama. So we went to Panama and then we went to Istanbul. We used the Turkish Airlines, Copa, to Panama and then to Istanbul through Turkish Airlines, and you spend 24 hours in Istanbul and then you come to Ghana. So our friend was the travel agent. She was telling us, well, she didn't want us to book an Airbnb. She said it's best that we come into a country we don't know. It's best to go to a hotel. So we stayed at a hotel called Golden Crystal. That's in East Legon. It's close by here. And so that's where we stayed. And that's how we had to learn. That was the baptism of fire, because to come here, we intended to rent a space, and we didn't understand the whole situation in regards to here. Similar to what we have in Jamaica now called NIDS. You have a Ghana card. So you need that Ghana card to do things. And there are also some persons would say that you need a resident permit as well. But that's not necessarily the case. And so during that time, we were in East Legon. We had a certain amount of money, and most of the money was really for the rental space for the year. So now we are locked into the space that we can't find a place. And the persons who were supposed to assist us with getting a place, they were not interested. So even how I met Dr. Kofi is through my colleague who I now work for, Professor Ian Boxer at the university. I was in communication with him, and he was trying to get his network here to assist me. But even so, that didn't happen. It's a long story. So it's really God that did all of that. Because at the last minute, when we believe that we would be kicked out of the hotel and all that, I was downloading the Airbnb app, and I stopped downloading it. And then when I looked, it was downloaded. And then I got a Airbnb that was cheap enough. That was in Adenta, apart close by here. You go by Medina and then you go to Adenta. And that person was at 11 o'clock in the night. He's actually a U.S. citizen, but he was home at that time, and he allowed us to stay at his place. And so because of that, we were actually in a community that was fully Ghanaian. So even though we prayed before we came that we didn't necessarily want to go into expatriate space, we wanted to go into a Ghanaian space, and we ended up in a Ghanaian space, and that's how we were able to learn a lot of things really fast. But I say my story is so, there's so much that happened in 1 year. I can't say everything right here. You won't have enough time. So, all right. So, yes, we have the presentation. So this is the why I spoke about some of them. And in the wider space, because of Africa, we looked at Africa, my wife and I, because at first we realized that Africa is the future. You know, 70% of sub-Saharan, I don't really like that saying, sub-Saharan Africa is youth. And I see it now because my daughter, when we enroll our daughter into the school, I only have one child. And every day, even yesterday, I saw the vice principal, and he keeps on laughing because he's saying, where's the other children? Over there, everybody has at least 3 or 4 children. You know? And then you look at comparison to now, I just read about Japan. Japan is only having 700,000 children per year, per annum, and they're looking to be probably the first extinct country. You know, so eventually youth is where growth and innovation is, so Africa is the place to be. Also the resources, we look at all the resources that we use, our cell phones and all, everything is coming from Africa. And being an anthropologist and a researcher, going into the supermarkets, I've seen that, you know, the agro-processing is not, you see the raw materials here, go to the market, you see all the food sources, pineapples, watermelon, and then when you look at the drinks that are in the supermarkets, they're all from Portugal, Italy, France. These persons don't have tropical areas to grow these things. So, you know, we come in here back, we should come and assist with the agro-processing. I believe the president coming in said that that's one of his, President Mahama says that that's one of his key places to go into agro-processing. And why Ghana? Oh, cultural observations. Any more questions in regards to the background? Ooh. My daughter's school? What about it? No, she's in a private school. The school system is very good here. What can find the school that my daughter goes to, they are very family oriented. But my daughter's personality is also resistant, and she's a natural born leader. So basically everybody in her school knows her, from her principal, everybody. You know, the parents know her and stuff. But the school is very, they teach very holistic. So because there are so much groups in Ghana, they ensure to embrace all, you know, as I will mention later on. And they embrace the different religions, they embrace the different cultures. They teach similar to Jamaica. I believe that they may be a little bit more technical at that level, because they asked my daughter go back 1 year to kind of understand the basics of it. But there wasn't really any major transition for her. She's doing very well at school. She's an A student. But as I said, she's a natural leader. She's super intelligent, so she gives a lot of trouble. But they're very protecting. So over here, at that school particularly, you can't go into the school like that. You have to have an app on your phone. And if you don't have the app, even if you're the parent, they're not going to allow you in that school. You know, unless you have a letter with a sign and stuff like that. So they're very protective about the children. Okay, so some of the cultural observations are relationships. One thing about Ghana is all about relationships. They like to see you face to face. You know, on the phone, you may talk to somebody on the phone and you will not get the full information or anything. But when you are there in front of them face to face, everything comes alive. And it's very formal business-wise. I know you'll probably hear a lot of people saying, please, thank you, please. You know, we coming from the West, especially those who are coming from the United States, that would not be the norm. But here, it goes a long way to be polite. In fact, some persons you will speak to in Ghana, if you don't say please, or they just ignore you. You know, they just pretend they didn't hear you. So anytime you go out in Ghana, you say, thank you, please, good morning, madam, how are you? You have the formalities. So you say, how are you? How are your family? You know, persons will answer back in that regard. Oh, go back, Prince, I'm not finished. Uh, the right hand. I'm a left-handed person, but thank goodness I can use both hands. But right hand is very important in a lot of spaces in Ghana. So when you eat, it's culturally correct to eat with your right hand. Some persons won't accept money with your left hand. Some persons won't shake your hand if you use your left hand. You know, right hand is the culture here. You use your right hand. So I find sometimes my left hand is not necessarily needed. Sometimes I'm walking with a bag in my hand, I realize it's in my left, I put it in my right. So when you're eating, you know, the fufu, the light soup, the banku, you use your right hand to eat it. Have patience, especially in the West. You know, in the West, everything is fast paced. In Ghana, it's not so much that way. You have to slow down. You have to adapt. So if you have a meeting that says at 3:30 and persons may come at 4. But I realize, you know, because as a researcher and an anthropologist, you know, you learn to be adaptive. My wife and I are adaptive like that. And so we realize that, you know, you have to be patient. Currently, I'm doing some business with, you know, in regards to opening up a place, and I've realized that I have to be very patient. Because during the Christmas season, everybody just locks down, you know. In the West, people be pushing. And Ghanaians are very patient, so if you get very antsy with them, they're not going to argue with you. They're just going to sit there and allow you to wait until you're patient with them. Be aware of all terms before you negotiate. So this is when you're looking into real estate, opening a business, partnerships and stuff. Be aware of all terms when you negotiate, especially when it comes to land. A lot of people come to Ghana and buy land. You know, persons will always be willing, whether Ghanaians or expatriates, they'll always want to sell you. And sometimes they will not give you the term. Sometimes the land is owned by other persons. And in Ghana, you don't really own land. You know, you have a 99-year lease if you're a Ghanaian and 50-year lease if you're a non-resident, and then you renew it at that time. So some persons, they may have some land that their family may have went away, and they'll try and sell it to you, and then you're in problems after that. So you have to go to the land commission and ensure that the land is legit and the owner is legit. Ensure that you bring in lawyers, because if you're spending your money, you don't want to lose it. And have everything in writing, and even at video at times. Do not take any oral agreement, because some persons will tell you right out there, oh, everything is okay, and then when it's time to finalize, they'll say, I did not say that. And that's everywhere in the world. You know, it's not just Ghana, but we're in Ghana now, so that's why I'm speaking about it here. When it comes to rental and leases, it's long-term over here. So it's not like in the West where you do it monthly. Over here, prepare to pay like a year in advance, 2 years in advance, even 4 years in advance if you want to. But if you pay for it in month, it's going to be much more expensive. And monthly is mostly for Airbnbs and persons who are coming from the West, because the West, sometimes persons from the West will compare the prices of rental spaces compared to Ghana. So if they are spending $1,000, $2,000 US a month in New York, then they come here and they say it's $500 US. They don't have a problem. At Ghana, it will be expensive for the Ghanaians. So always prepare to pay for 1 year in advance. And then what happens if it's 1 year, in 3 months before the end of the rent, your landlord will come to you and ask you if you're going to continue. And then that's when you negotiate onto the other year. Funerals are very important here. And because of that, there are two main colors that are used for mourning, and those are red and black. So it's not usually culturally correct to wear full black or full red unless you're going to a funeral. So some persons may treat you differently based on the fact that you're wearing those colors. And if you see persons in those colors, you know, you can pay your respects to them, because that would mean that they're mourning. Nowadays, the younger persons, they like to wear full black. So you'll see young kids in full sweatsuits and full black and stuff. But culturally, it's usually that full black or red is a funeral color. Yes, in Ghana here, when persons are having meals or beverages, they may tell you you're invited. So it's a cultural custom to share. But you have your discretion to say if you would like to partake in the meal or beverage that they have or not. But you always hear that, they're having food here. They say you're invited. And that means that, would you like some of my meal? Also recognize that there are different groups in Ghana. I think Ghana is a very accepting society. So where I live, I can hear the mosque, I can hear the church, and they're close by each other. I mean, maybe in other areas of Ghana it's not so close, but in Accra. So you'd find that, as Dr. Kofi mentioned, the Ga is predominantly in Accra. If you go to the Volta region, you'll find the Ewe. If you go down to Cape Coast, there'll be the Fanti. The Northerners up in northern Ghana. And the Hassa, if you like Wache, if you heard about Wache, the Hassa, they are the ones and Cocoa, which is the breakfast meal. They're the ones that do that. They are largely Islam. And of course, there's the Ashanti in the Kumasi region. But everybody is within Accra, so sometimes you may find that you're interacting with them. And there's different changes in their culture. And sometimes, everybody can speak Twi, but they also have their languages that they speak. Fante is known for Fante and Kenke. Anybody had Kenke yet? So Fante is known for their Kenke. Yes, that's a kind of fermented cornmeal cake, kind of. So you eat it with dried fish. Yeah. Okay. Yes, Jamestown. Yeah, Jamestown. All right. Hey, this one's another interesting one. Being from Jamaica, the Rastafari have their own language and certain words they don't say. So in Ghana, I realized that bottom and finish are not said. If you say these things, sometimes people don't even regard it. So instead of bottom, you say top. So if you're stepping down the stairs, you say, I'm stepping down. And if you want a kaftan and you want a top and the pants, you say a top and down. So if you have a transaction, if you're doing Momo, which is the electrical money exchange on your phone or giving money, and you did the transaction with the boat, you don't say I'm finished, you say I'm done. They're going to ask you, are you done? No one says these words. And these words, it's good because these words are permanent, so they signify permanence. I can see that. So I can see the similarities with the Rastafari. Because the Rastafari won't say certain words like, listen. Okay.
If it's finished, then bring it. Yes. But they say it's finished like Asan, because they're thinking in P to say that there's no more.
Yes, thank you. Yes, on the streets, well, this is more for Jamaica, not necessarily from those in the United States and other areas. In Jamaica, our pleasantries are on the street. So if you're walking on the street and you see somebody say good morning, or you jump into the taxi or the Uber, you'd say good morning. It's not necessarily normal for, sometimes persons will not greet you. And that's not being disrespectful, it's just their culture. So if you go on the street and you pass somebody and they don't say good morning, don't find it as disrespect, or going to the Uber or the Bolt. That's just how it is. Because if you speak to them about other things, you'll find out that they're friendly otherwise. Yeah.
But how is it though that you're so particular about saying that you please, or asking you things to please? But I mean, good morning is just so easy.
No, because that's when you have an interaction with the person. But if you're not interacting with them for a specific reason, then it's not expected. No. So you'd find out if you say, for instance, you got somebody would give you a job. You're on the road and they decide to give you a lift. Sometimes they will not speak throughout the whole time, and that is okay. Because unless you have a reason to speak, it's in Jamaica where persons would want to converse throughout the time. It's not necessarily like that. All right. Okay, those persons who don't like spice, if you're in Ghana, if you're in Ghana, okay, okay. And some of them are already pre-prepared, so even when you say, hey, I don't want the spice, you might get a little less, but you're going to get some spice. I think now I don't even, my taste buds don't even register pepper anymore. So, you know, it can be as hot. It doesn't really matter anymore. So, and it is in basically all the dishes. So as I said, the hassa, they do the cocoa, which is it's made from can't remember what's the grain that cocoa is made from? Millet, right? But they also add pepper into it, so you'll find that it is spicy as well. So like Jamaicans, the porridge, it's a spicy porridge. There's going to be pepper in the porridge. Yeah, so prepare for that. Okay, in the West, you know, we're impatient. So if we're in the traffic, we're going to blow horn, we're going to overtake. Over here, everybody is patient. Patient to the point, if you have a fender bender, nobody's going to get out and curse anybody. You're just going to look at it and see if it's okay and you move on, you know? So, and it's you see me? Really?
So, like maybe about a week ago, there was one motorcycle that was going here, another one going that way, and at that time the one who was here was in the wrong. So they crashed, both of them fell to the ground. The guy who was in the right took his helmet off, which was just for show because the guy's wearing a helmet. But I've seen, you know, I've been here for 16 years, so I will have seen, you know, a bit more, but those things can happen, especially when there's a fender bender. I've seen several fights from truck drivers, taxi drivers, especially. The mates are known to fight, so just a bit of nuance to.
Well, yeah, that's true. But you know, coming from a space where it's highly violent, these fights are nothing compared to that. Exactly. If somebody throws even 1 and 2 fists, that's okay. I'm talking about when persons in a fender bender, they come out, they're ready to do things. Yeah. But I do understand what you're saying. Thank you, Prof. And I saw this on the page, so I see I corroborate with the pally in regards to refer to elders as sir and madam. And even persons are, you know, and if you do not know their names, elders are always respected in Ghana. And auntie and uncle are also accepted. So if you're not so old, you might find that, you know, the younger persons will call you auntie or uncle. And in school, they actually call, the children call their teachers auntie and uncle. So that is. You can go again, please. Yeah, so that's a, you know, example of the formal, the funeral dress. So you see, they have the red and black print. Also, they also wear white as well. If somebody's over 70, is that right, Dr. Kofi? Depends. Yeah, depends. Yeah. And I was mentioning that, you know, over here you don't necessarily have to wear a suit and tie. The kaftan or the safari suit is.
In, you know, I'm Guyanese, so when people pass away, there's a big, you know, there's food, there's music, there's family, there's drinks. So I'm just curious about even that process, the transition process.
Oh yeah, similar to that.
It's huge, especially when you go from the Ashanti region and the Akans in general. So they overdo funerals. Overdo funerals because their Akans, and especially around the Kumasi area, you would do like 7 funerals for a funeral.
Wow.
Yes. So there is the 1 week, and then there is the 40 days, and then there is the main funeral. If the person is a big person, a chief, or even a dignitary, they can be frozen for 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, and wait for the right time for all the family to be there. So, and then you know after, so it's very long, and the main funeral is big, and even the funeral itself starts on Friday, Saturday, Sunday service, and then Sunday after service. So it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but some parts are trying to sort of reform. Some chiefs are trying to reform. Let's carry on.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so
But it is what it is.
So if I dress in all black, you think I'm going to the funeral?
Yes,
Yeah.
I had on red and white and black, and nobody told me.
That was all right.
Okay.
No, that's all right.
Okay.
And you can be all black. It doesn't mean you're black.
Okay.
But typically for a funeral, it would be red. It would be black or red, but mostly black. And sometimes the closest to the deceased will have a flash of red. So it will be black with a flash of red. It means they're very, very close to the person that passed.
Excuse me.
And again, this is the diversity of cultures. There's the Ewa, there's the Ga, there is the, the Dagmani, the whole different cultures.
Is storing the body for the year, is that expensive over here in
It is.
Jamaica?
It is expensive. It is expensive. However, it's sustained because the culture, to a large extent, requires that you make funeral donations. So we make funeral donations, and funeral donations are public. So when you go for a funeral, after everything, it's in public, and you go and make a donation, and you go like, this person was my friend's friend, my colleague at work. If I'm saying in dollars, maybe $100. This person was my neighbor and so $10. This person was that, so $5,000. And and depending on their status in society, they would give a bigger amount. And so it's sustained. And so people can be frozen for years. But averagely, I think people get frozen for like maybe a month or two.
yeah. And you also had the signs after COVID, the big posters
Yeah, and the signboard.
and the banners at the homes. Graphic. Yeah, so I like to thank Jesus for being faithful and true to my family on the journey, because as I said, a year we were able to get our citizenship. In fact, it's the same time our Ghana card expired. It's the same time I got my Ghana citizenship. So, yeah. And thank you, Dr. Kofi and the Pali team, as always, for treating me like family and giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
So my question is, I get what you presented about cultural observations. Have you tried to stick to your culture and your practices as opposed to assimilating everything else that you have experienced here? So for example, there's so many references I see now to what we do in Jamaica, and I'm understanding where it's from. So children will call you auntie this and uncle that. And I'm not breaking my kids out of doing that. So I'm just thinking, is there anything here that you would not reinforce or teach or have your daughter practice? Or you would resist culturally?
Well, I mean, I said it's very similar to Jamaica. I don't think I've really experienced anything at this time that I've seen that is troubling. I said my daughter, from she was in the womb, she's very smart. So anything that she teaches, she learns from us, she's not going to change. And I said the cultures are so similar. I wouldn't say that I've assimilated. Being an anthropologist, I'm able to understand cultures and balance myself in it. And I've been able to accept the parts of the Ghanaian culture. And I still maintain my Jamaican culture. But that's a good question, because I never really taken it in like that.
And I had another one, again, in Jamaica we have our 9 nights.
Mm-hmm.
And when they're doing these community burials, the sprinkler, the white rum and so on. Are any of those practices here?
Oh, you mean imbibing the spirits? Well, I've never been to a funeral yet.
No, not the spirits.
I think Dr. Kofi.
Yeah, Dr. Kofi. More.
In the 40 days, is there here, which can be similar to the 9 nights.
well, so I think that could be like the 1 week.
But do they pour rum over the grave?
They probably got that.
Oh, yeah. Do they pour?
I don't like funerals. I don't like funerals. I don't want to think about it.
They like funerals. Your whole body said, this is a body.
Yeah, I think it's too much. I think we shouldn't spend too much time on that money on. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah.
But you see, like we started learning yesterday, and by the way, I'm sure one of us is going to help us, like Michael. But you see, this is executive education, right? And we don't. Someone is sharing their perspective. It's his experience, his decision. It's not like like it's not deciding for anyone. He's sharing his story. We can pick stuff. We can learn. I don't think it's everyone that will decide I want to leave one country and move to the other part of the world. I don't know no one there. I have taken risks like that with my life, doing different things. But I think there is interesting thing to hear about his perspective, and we picked him rather than just a Ghanaian to come here and just share what is in the culture. He's come from outside, and it's fitting in. And I did see him, within the first like 3 months that he had been here and settling in. And to be honest, I thought, gosh, wow, that was a huge leap, not knowing anyone. But I may be going off what we're talking about here. But it does align with something with me, it's the power of faith.
Yes.
You gotta have the power to believe, and you know what, when we were talking last month, and he said, Dr. Kofi, I got my Ghana citizen, I screamed, I'm like, I can't believe it. You've just been here for a few months, and you will receive your citizenship from the president of Ghana. Like, when he was coming, he had no clue that he was going to receive citizenship. So, he's entitled to everything, and that's it. But he shared his story, and I'm sure there's stuff we can pick from it, and a perspective, but definitely let's applaud his courage, his wisdom.
Thank you.
And yet I'm sure I'm not worthy to say the appreciation. So let's get one person to come up and say, hey, just reflect back. Let's get at least one person. Just reflect back and say thank you. With love. Yes, please. Yes, please, Doctor.
Thank you so much. I really appreciated, number one, the fact that you grounded it so deeply as a process of faith. Because for so many of us, we are all the voices in our heads say what's no. But to be able to, as Dr. Kofi said, take that leap of faith and to come into this space and share your journey and speak to even the moments that you felt questionable about it. I felt it, and I really appreciated the way in which you had just embraced this entire country as your country and recognized that you have a place and are grounded in it, and it's a lesson for all of us around how we can actually marry where we came from with where we want to go with power. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Give it up, give it up, give it up. Let's give him a boom, boom. Boom, boom. 80. 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 You are the boom, boom show. All right, guys. All right, guys. And Michael is a Poly alumni. He's graduating on Saturday. He's graduating from which course? Yeah, the philanthropic leadership on Saturday, so he's going to be graduating as well. A few things, but quickly, I'm going to be introducing Prof, but let's do this very quickly. I want to give everyone like 1 minute. Let's do this quickly, so Prof knows who is here and all of that. So we're going to go around the table quickly. Your name, your country of residence, what brings you here. Remember, we talked about these things. Everywhere you go, we do the Amania. What brings you here, and your reflections from yesterday. You missed something. Your Ghanaian name. You should have put down the next line. Your Ghana name. Your Ghana name. Your Ghana name. You had a homework yesterday. Your homework yesterday. All right. So we have 1 minute. No, 1 minute will be too long because I don't want to keep Prof waiting. So 15 seconds. Just say what you remember. You don't have to answer. This is not. All right. Should I go to Ghana? Prof says we should go the Ghanaian. We shake hands this way. Or who's going to go first so that? Okay.
No, she's the boss. I'm sorry, Cheryl, please.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Boom, boom. All right, my name is Cheryl Wilkins. I'm from the USA. What brings me here to learn more about not just Ghana, but the global movement and understanding that we are one. And so that's important for me. My Ghanaian name is Abina. 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 Abina? Abina? Okay, Abina. Okay. Okay. Reflections from yesterday. I thought that it was good. I thought
I don't know. I did my homework. I was born on Wednesday, so I don't know what the name is for Wednesday.
You still have time to do that today.
Equia. Y'all stop saying it because you got it.
So I'm a Wednesday born. Mine is Ewa Equia, Lady Equia. Some would say Equia.
It's Equia.
Yes.
I'm an Equia.
Excellent.
Thank you. My reflection from yesterday, I was extremely tired, and I was given grace to just get a day of rest, and now I'm here and ready to roll.
Yes. Good morning. I am Charlene Sinclair. I am from the U.S., the state of Virginia. And what brings me here is I am really so interested in both feeling as well as understanding this diasporic connection. And so, and with the Center for Justice, just seeing the power of what happens with women when they connect with other women, particularly on the continent. So I'm very excited about that. My new Ghanaian name, Abna, Tuesday, Abna, okay. And I mentioned I'm a consultant. One of the organizations had a little bit of a blow up, so I had to work yesterday. But I am thankful, thank you, all of you, for the grace that you offered, and I'm fully here and ready today.
Hi, good morning everyone. My name is Abnel Zahario. I'm from Trinidad and Tobago. What brings me here is actually to do the advance. I did the first course, which was based in Africa, and I loved it so much that I decided I need to do the advance just to get a better understanding of the Ghanaian culture. I saw this as a more, the previous one was more theoretical, and I think I wanted to do the practical to have a better understanding, and of course to take away from it. My new name is Ajua.
Oh, you pronounce so well.
I had to help. Reflections from yesterday. My takeaway is really about the Ghanaian culture, how to really assimilate into Ghanaian culture. So that's my takeaway from yesterday.
All right, great morning, everyone. I'm Milton Dennis. I'm from Kingston, Jamaica. what brings me here? I mean, I've always wanted to come to Africa. I did the Gateway to Africa course, and that was very interesting. I learned so much from that course, and as a follow-up, I saw this as an opportunity to really come to Africa and get a proper experience of the culture, the people, and to learn some more about where I'm from and the people and the roots. I mean, I must say, for me yesterday, I think what was interesting for me is the ease. The impression I get is the ease at which you could make that transition if you are serious about it, particularly if you are looking at doing business here in Africa. I mean, I think that session was great for me. I particularly enjoyed the coffee experience as well. Just that process. And I think coffee kept me up a little bit late last night. But I was doing work, so I didn't mind, So it's been great so far. My name is Kwesi.
Nice.
I'm a Sunday born, and I'm going to try to see if August I can use that back when I get back to Jamaica.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Okay, good evening. Good morning. Now, I think we had a special way of introducing ourselves as we learned from our chancellor yesterday, right? I'm Senyo, coming from Ghana. Calling from Ghana and in Legon. So what brings me here? I believe I'm part of the team that has come together to make sure we make it comfortable and we can go through the situation that we
Yeah, he's part of our party.
part of.
He's out to all our parties.
So I'm the global ambassadors coordinator. My name is Senyo. I think currently we have one of our ambassadors here, that's Dr. Stark from USA.
Yeah.
We're also expecting the rest.
We will talk about that.
Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Well, we know our dean. We know Dr. Jenny. We know Dr. Jenny. So yes.
We don't know his gentleman though.
No, we don't.
We don't think we know you yet. We don't know you yet. We don't know you yet. No, no.
Good day. Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is David Narai. I am from the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. What brings me here? She is very excited about the Pan-African Leadership Institute, and she talked about it a lot at all the classes as well as hearing. And she had to come here to graduate, so I couldn't let her travel.
Sure we could.
Oh, best answer. We're going to give her a award.
So, my new Ghanaian name is Kobe.
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 Yes.
Yes. And reflections from yesterday. Yesterday was very interesting. The lectures at the
Investment.
The investment. It was interesting to see how easy it is to come and be part of this country, be part of this culture, and to, own property and do business here. It's really nice. And the treehouse experience was great.
Yes.
And that coffee. And I think, we are accustomed to Starbucks. That, what we experienced yesterday, is the African Starbucks. And that should be an experience that should go around. Wow. We need to share that.
Wow. Yes.
Okay? Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I am I'm from Trinidad and Tobago. What brings me here, and as David said, we wanted to explore Africa. We've been hearing about Africa for such a long time. And being an educator, I would have taught it in school. I'm looking forward to visiting Strait River or the Irving Castle, where you would explore the culture and the history and what happened in the past, because in Trinidad and Tobago, this is our culture as well. So we are connected with what we know, and to bring some sort of Well, to understand it a little more, my Ghanaian name is After, which is Friday. And with respect to yesterday, as David said, the coffee, phenomenal. Alright, so I could sleep, sitting, standing, once I'm tired, but yesterday I could not sleep. So I got some beans. I know it wouldn't grow, I'm not sure.
You're going to roast it yourself.
Roasted myself, yes. Thank you very much for having us here. I'm looking forward to working out. Thank you.
Hi, good morning everyone. I'm Julie Brazil. I am from Jamaica and I work at the University of the West Indies. Why am I here? I started traveling around 2022 and at that time I did Kenya, Tanzania, Zanzibar. Why am I here? It's interesting to know where you come from. It's interesting to see who you are by yourself. So a lot of my travels have been solo. And in doing this, I have established new boundaries for myself. I have found a sense of peace. And I am more the architect of my life. And I have become extremely happy and contented. My Ghanaian name is Amma. And I didn't know that this was it. There were two principals, two teachers in my life. One was at my child's school. Her principal's name was Ajwa. And it's not what I'm seeing it here. It means Monday. And then her sister was my Spanish teacher.
She was Tuesday.
Her name was Abba. I'm not seeing Abba here, but having seen this, now I understand where it came from. And I thought that was just so interesting. So they were Azra and Abba, but I am Abba.
Oh, are you a poet as well? Oh my gosh. You're right.
Speak up.
You're the man. You're the biggest man.
My name is Anthony and I'm from the United States. And I'm here to learn more about Ghana. And my name is Kwame.
Wow.
And it means the gift and it's Saturday. Also, what I talked to yesterday was about the signage of Ghana. Like, I know it means it's like, even if it's different people, but still,
All right. Good morning. My name is Stephen Hancock, and I am from the United States.
Where?
From North Carolina.
Okay.
All right. So what brings me here is, of course, Polly, but also always the call to come back. This is my third time here, and every time I come, I learn different things and become much more clear about who I am. My Ghanaian name is Kwame Anan. Born on Wednesday and in the House of Leadership. And reflection from yesterday, wow, I think everybody has already said it, but as a culture anthropologist, I never get off work. I'm always working. And so yesterday I actually got to go to the lobby and pick up more knowledge and experience, and I'm continuing to take away personal and spiritual growth.
Nice.
So, peace everyone. My name is Dr. Unique C. Starks. I'm from New York City, Brooklyn specifically, in the United States. What brings me here is Polly and really trying to build on my awareness. I want to be as informed as possible, so it's really, really important that I continue to be a student. My Ghanaian name is Alma. Dr. G help me. Bambulo. That means I was born on a Saturday. It is unique in God, which is rare, special, or one of a kind. And then my reflection from yesterday is I was really, really grateful. I was grateful to know there's opportunities no matter where you go, and we're kind of just not stuck. Sometimes living in the States, you can feel stuck, or like that's the only thing that's there. But being able to learn different things, and just whether you, like you said, you take some things, you leave some things, but it's good just to like build on your level of awareness. And it was, I think, let me pronounce your name correctly, Michael, he said something good. He was like, the gratitude and the people here are kind. So I do appreciate the culture from yesterday and how well we were treated everywhere we went.
Now you all deserve a big boom boom.
Boom boom!
All right, at this juncture, we're excited, super excited to bring on a great professor. And if I have time, I'll spend like one whole year just sitting under his feet, just listening to him. He's an incredible man, super intelligent. We're all intelligent. He comes from a family with incredible academic distinction. He has a story a little bit similar to Michael's story. He's born in the United States and decided to walk away. I know I'm taking the wind out of the sail. I don't know how the folk ended up here, but Professor Hancock. Yes. I know someone who leaves the United States and says, "I'll never go back."
Yes.
All right, I'm not good. Well, Professor Hancock, please do us the honors. He's our co-professor here. He's going to read this. Are you able to see? Is it too tiny? Too tiny? Okay, let me read it. Professor Obeinfo Obadele Cambone is an associate professor and research coordinator of language, literature, and drama at this very institute of the University of Ghana. And we should have a chance perhaps to go around the campus, huge campus, before we leave. He is an award-winning academic, Pan-Africanist, activist, and a king in Ghana. Born as an African-American, he relocated his family to Ghana from Chicago. He is a world-renowned master linguist, scholar. He speaks and writes, I think, better Tree than myself. Yet in a few years, he's mastered it. And I can go on and on. He is a recipient of the Marcus Mosiah Garvey Award. And so let's receive Professor with a big boom boom! Boom boom! Hey. Boom boom! Hey. Boom boom! Hey. Boom boom! Hey.
Boom boom, 80.
Boom boom, 80.
That's kind of weird. What happened?
So it's just that the women have to make the boom boom.
Not quite right.
Have you learned that one yet? All right.
And then Nami. People with those.
Habari za asubuhi.
It's a sin. Okay.
Nakasubasi. All right. Good morning. I'm just saying that in various languages. My PowerPoint, I believe, is being pulled up as we speak. I heard Brooklyn. I was born in Brooklyn, Bed-Stuy, to be exact, 7 Arlington Place. Born at home, not in a hospital. So I heard that. Also, when you say Brooklyn, all you have to say is which island, because just about everybody in Brooklyn comes from some island. So my father's side is St. Kitts and Barbados. So his father's side is St. Kitts and his mother's side Barbados. So I heard a lot of Caribbean I heard Trinidad and Tobago. I love Polori and doubles.
Doubles, yes.
And then also citizenship. That initiative started right here in this room that you're sitting in right now. In 2015, we had a series of lectures each month. And in April of 2016, the executive secretary to the president at that time, President Mahama, who's back, the executive secretary, that's Nicholas Ikwate, came to one of our meetings. And one of the things that we said is that we contribute a lot as diasporans to Ghana, but we don't have very much to show, in return. And we said what we are interested in is citizenship. Imagine you contribute $1 million factory, but oh, you're not a citizen, your visa is expired, go back home. It really makes it that you're really not stable. You really, are unsure about what to do. So he took that message back to President Mahama, and President Mahama was voted out in December 7th of that year. On the 28th of December 2016, his last act was when he said, I'm not giving you anything, this is your birthright. He said, I'm restoring your birthright, your citizenship. So that's a little bit of the background. This very room you're sitting in right now, around this exact same table, that's how the Citizenship Initiative got started in Ghana. And then from there, Benin has done similar things, Sierra Leone has done similar things. I just saw something yesterday that Burkina Faso is also doing a similar thing. But all of those things, in terms of a president, restoring the citizenship of diasporans en masse, all of that started from meetings right here in African Studies in my office. So I just wanted to give you that background. All right. So I was given the topic of Kemet, decolonization, and the way forward for global Africa. I've transformed global Africa to global Kemet, and in the course of the presentation, you will see why I have done that. So when I say global, I want you to say Kemet. Global? Kemet. Global? Kemet. Boom, boom. All right, we're going to work everything into
Yes, sir.
So this is a quote by Mamsieh Anta Diop, where he says, the history of Africa will remain suspended in air and cannot be written correctly until African historians connect it with the history of Egypt. The African historian who evades the problem of Egypt is neither modest or objective nor unruffled. He is ignorant, cowardly, and neurotic. Boom, boom. Global. There we go. Global. Global. Fantastic. Let's continue. So, by way of introduction, just very briefly, there are several problems with the concept of decolonization. As you know, this is the big buzzword. Everyone, decolonization, and a lot of non-black foundations are funding all types of initiatives around decolonization. Why are they so interested in decolonization? We'll touch on that. But there are a couple of problems with decolonization and what decoloniality. The first is using a colonial language to conceptualize reality. Is the word decolonization our own word as black people? I think not, and we'll go into that. The second is conceiving of time as a line, which includes pre-colonial, colonial, and post-colonial. That's another problem. And that is to say that even the idea of decolonization itself is colonization, but we'll come back to that point. The third is rooting one's identity and self-definition in the anticipated presence, the current presence, or ostensible leaving of one's colonial enemy. That is to say, oh, these last 7 million years is all pre-colonial. It means that the center of your existence, your very reality is all of this is pre-colonial. Now colonial, that's the center of my existence. And now I'm post-colonial, which means they just left. Now we could say pre-Kemet, Kemet, post-Kemet. We could say pre-Timbuktu, Timbuktu, and post-Timbuktu. Anything could be the anchor of the center of our reality. But when we deal with this pre-colonial, colonial, post-colonial line, it means that we're only relevant in existence in relation to whether they're here or not. Boom, boom. Global. 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 Fantastic. So, just very briefly, I think this is a bit small for you to see, but the word, very good. So the word colony, it comes from Latin, from colonus, from colere, to cultivate, to till, to inhabit, to frequent practice, so forth, from Proto-Indo-European, quell, to revolve, move round, sojourn, dwell, so forth. So when we talk about decolonization, to remove a place from colonial status, So we're just adding D to the colonization. But as we see, the word is coming from Latin. Now, are we Romans? Is Latin our indigenous language? So do we have to use Latin to conceptualize reality? I don't think so. Let's go to the right of this slide. Now, what I propose as a term is Seruj Ta in Kemet. Seruj, Se is the causative stem. It means to cause something. And then Ruj is strength or firmness. It means to cause strength or to cause firmness. Ta, that is the land. You see that Ta, earth, land, ground. N is the indirect genitive expressing possession. And then Kemet, if you can go a little bit. Very good. So you see the word Kim translates to black. This is Faulkner's dictionary, which is considered the standard in quote-unquote Egyptology. So the root word is Kim. This is represented by a burnt piece of charcoal, which is actually similar to the word for black in P and the word for black in Yoruba. When you say Bidie, that's where the BB and Abibiman is coming from, the B in Bidie, exactly, which is the word for charcoal. And Yoruba, Edu is the word for charcoal, so we say Adulawo. The word for blackness is again connected to the word for charcoal.
Yoruba is
Nigerian language. Very good. And then the same thing here, Kim, the word charcoal, so it translates to black. And this is also the root of the word chemistry. And what it refers to is the chemical reaction that takes place when wood is burned. This is the root of the word chemistry itself. So the word Kemet translates as the black land. But here you see in the dictionary, you have the exact same thing that means black. You see man, woman, plural. It literally says black people. That's what the word Kemet or Kemetiu written like this means. But now they decide, oh, let's forget that the black part. Let's just say it means Egyptians. That is intentional. And I'll go back to why that is intentional. Global?
Kemet.
Global?
Kemet.
Kemet. Boom, boom.
Crazy.
Let's continue. So, one thing that we're looking to do is not decolonization. It is, as I just mentioned, Seruj Ta in Kemet, restoring the land of black people. And the other concept is to restore Ma'at. So on the universal level, the concept Ma'at expresses the harmony of the elements throughout the cosmos. So if you look at the relations of the stars, the sun, the planets, all of those things moving in harmony, that is Ma'at on the cosmic level. But in classical Kemet, it was thought that the ruler is in charge of making sure that that same type of harmony exists in society, right? So the ruler is called Sa, Ra, the son of Ra, the sun. So the same way that all of these things are revolving around the sun, that's the same way that things are revolving around the ruler who has that as a responsibility. So it says, on the political level, the concept of Ma'at works against injustice. It is in the name of Ma'at that the Pharaoh subjugates rebels and dominates foreign lands. We'll come back to that point. And then also on the individual level. So for some of you, you've heard of the 10 Commandments, but those are extracted from the 42 declarations of Ma'at. They realized that they can't do all 42, so let's just extract the 10 that are doable, right? And they don't even do the 10 well, right? But for those who are interested, you can research more into Ma'at because there's a lot of things that come from classical Kemet, such as death and resurrection of the Savior. That idea was first carved into stone in the pyramid text. The idea of, judgment after death, all of that is found long before it was, let's say, usurped by other cultures. Let's continue. So again, restoring Ma'at. So it's not about so-called decolonization. It's about restoring Ma'at, and it's about Seruj Ta in Kemet. I think because they don't have my font, some of the things are a bit misaligned, but we'll take it like this. Now, as I mentioned, one issue is time as cyclical versus time as a line. So the prototypically Eurasian concept of space is that the world is flat. And they'll say, oh, that was universal. Everybody said the world is flat. Meanwhile, when you go to the Metropolitan Museum right now, for those who are based in New York, you can go there and see the sarcophagus of Weresh Nefer, which depicts the world as round 2,000 years ago. Long before Galileo, long before Copernicus, long before anybody else you've heard of, we were actually carving this into stone, and they know that it was carved into stone because they've taken that sarcophagus, and you have to even go to New York before you can see what your own ancestors carved into stone. So again, they see time as flat and, space as flat and time as flat. Pre-colonial, colonial, post-colonial. This is the center of your existence is, look, we're here now. But for us, this is a quote, this is actually a proverb from classical Kemet, from a conversation between a man and his Ba, the Ba being the aspect of the self. And it says, Pahart Pu Ankh, and it translates to life is a cycle. So that's the proverb. And then you see a depiction amongst the Bakongo. This is called the Dikenga cosmogram. So this is the sunset. This is, very good, this is the sunset. This is midnight. This is sunrise. This is noon. And it's thought that everything that exists follows this type of pattern. So basically, as I'm standing here, let's say I'm standing here in the center at the intersection of Mukula and Kalunga, then from my perspective, anything that exists, I can see the sunrise of it, whether it's an idea, whether it's a civilization, whether it's a lifetime, whether it is a day. I can see a sunrise of it, I can see the high point of it, and then I can see the sunset of it. And the same thing is that even though the sun has set from my perspective, it hasn't stopped existing. This is the reason why we pour libation, because the idea is that even if my ancestor, I don't see them physically with my eye anymore, because the human being is a living sun, in Kikongo they say, Ntangu Amoyo, because the human being is a living sun, it means that that if a person has died, they haven't really died, they've just transformed, and then they rise again in a different form. Now, that sounds like, oh, well, that sounds spiritual, or that sounds like something abstract. But literally, what you're calling your hand right now, 2,000 years ago, was it your hand, or was it in a different form? The water that you drink, the blood that's in your veins, 10,000 years ago, it wasn't blood in your veins, it wasn't your own body, it was in a different form, but it's transformed into what has now become you. So it's very literal in that sense as well. We can come here also to the prototypically black concept of time. It's the same thing in Dimina, Malamatulu, in Dingwansi, Makielo, in Seluka, Kinsamina, in Bata, in Sinsa. And my house.
Sorry, Prof. So these are which language? And
this is
Kikongo. I know
you're
going to come to Kemet. You need to explain what Kemet is. I know we talked about that.
Yes.
But if you can.
I have slides specifically defining Kemet and going into what Kemet is. But this is the Kikongo language, but just to show you that this is a shared idea. When you say Obinya Nerewo, that someone died at high noon, it's not literal. It's to say that they've reached this part of their life. They haven't gotten to evening time. So you find this in language after language of an analogy between one's lifetime and in the course of a day. But let's continue so we can get definitions in. Now, when we talk about, quote unquote decolonization, one area is in terms of spatially. There's an expression in the United States where they say, you don't even know which way is up. Right? I'll come back to that point. So most of us are familiar with the Mercator projection that shows, what is this, Greenland as even bigger than the continent that we now refer to as Africa. Right? So that is skewed. And an attempt to rectify that is the Gall-Peters projection map. Global? Kemet. Anytime I hear someone nodding off, oh, Kemet, someone's around. It's all intentional. There's a method to the madness. And then Winkle triple projection map is supposed to be better than that in terms of showing the actual, relations. Let's continue. However, some of you may not be aware that the very first map in the history of the world of topographical interest is that of Imahu Amenat, the son of Imahu Ipui, and it has a south-up orientation. So the inventors of map making were found in classical Kemet, and they had a south-up orientation to the maps. So you may wonder, well, how did we end up with north orientation, maps? We'll come to that. Next slide. And the reason why there was a south-up orientation is if you look at where classical Kemet was located, that they have to look leftwards, that is to say southeast, in order to see the sunrise. So the word for east and left was the same word, Yapti. And then they have to look, again, they're looking towards the equator and the ecliptic, which is the apparent path of the sun through the sky. They have to look, southwest. That's on their right-hand side in order to see the sun. If they turn around and they start looking north, their back is to the sun, they'll see their shadow, but they'll never see the sun at any point in the year. You have to look south And now on your left, you see the sunrise, and then on your right, you see the sunset. So this is the reason why all of the maps, as we invented map making, were always south up, because we're facing, you know, here the top, left, and right. So again, you also had a topological feature where the Ethiopian highlands is where the Hapi River comes from. That's what they call the Nile River. So also Upper Kemet was considered to be in the south, and then Lower Kemet, sea level, the Mediterranean Sea, is in the north. So you had both of those interacting. Global! Boom, boom! So this is a depiction of the various states that existed around 1260 CE, and then this is showing the Berlin Conference boundaries that were decided upon not by us, but by our colonial enemies, and this is an incorrect orientation as well. So if we're really interested in quote-unquote decolonizing anything, the first thing we have to do is decolonize our view of space, because we don't even know which way is up. Because that one is based on something natural that everyone can see, but then they flipped it up so that they can show quote-unquote Europe, which is also not a continent. But if you want to get the grade on your exam, you better say it's a continent. Even though it's just a peninsula, they're able to say, because it's my language, I'm calling my peninsula a continent. But it's all one landmass called Eurasia. You can walk from Spain to Mongolia with no problem. Let's continue. Again, time as a line or as a cycle. So again, if you look at this idea, here is time presented as a line. That's the Eurasian worldview, whereas time is linear. In our worldview, we see everything that exists having a sunrise, a sunset, and then a sunrise again in a different form. This one is much more in alignment with reality as we understand transformation. Okay? As we understand transformation, because now in contemporary physics, they talk about the law of conservation of energy, that in a closed system, energy is not created or destroyed, it's only transformed. But this is essentially what we've been saying for the last few thousand years. Boom, boom. Global. Global. Let's continue. I won't go so far into this, but the reason why this is going on is what's referred to as the precession of the equinoxes, right? So every 2,160 years, you have a different constellation in the background at the time of the equinox. That's the vernal equinox and the autumnal equinox. Let's continue. And this was depicted at the Temple of Dendera. Again, the idea is life is a cycle. And what we would do is we would actually count time in these cycles of 2,160 years, right? And that is what's referred to as a great month, and the great year is around 25,920 years for you to get back to the exact same constellation where you started from. So when they would talk about the sun, right, they would talk about the sun and the 12 constellations. That ended up being referred to as Jesus and the 12 disciples. When they talked about being born on December 25th, that's actually going to the winter solstice, which is on the 21st. It stays at the lowest point in the sky for 3 days, and then it rises 1 degree on December 25th. So if you actually know some of these stories that you've gotten, you actually know a lot about astronomy, and you can see this every single year if you're familiar with what we're talking about here. But let's continue. So there's a quote by Nana Jacob Brothers. He says, African champions must break the chain that links African ideas to European ones and listen to the voice of the ancestors without European interpreters. I had that as my signature for email for some years. I think it's very profound. Boom, boom. Global. Global. I'm taking you on the road with my backup singers. Let's continue. So significance of names for Kemetu, that's to say black people. In Kiswahili, there's a proverb that says, Ukiridi jina ridina mambo yake, and it translates to, one who inherits a name must also adopt its affairs. So this is very profound. What happens when we have names that we didn't give ourselves? There are endonyms, these are names we give ourselves, but then there are exonyms, which are names that someone else calls us. Our names are supposed to direct us. They're supposed to destine us. They're supposed to define us. They're supposed to delineate. They're supposed to do all of these things for us intentionally. But what happens when our names are wiped away and we're given meaningless labels, sounds, grunts? Right? We lose a lot of that. So there's a, this is a quote from a book, Kwabena Dakon in Obeng 2001. He says, Senya yedewato temamu hua, wumbobra pabia, na yedewato koya, ayeng empower fear down. Sanson has said, yedewato efriya, brebiana stadia diwanim. And it translates to, just as one leads an unproductive life as one is named sit in a country do nothing, or one's life is riddled with deaths, funerals if one is named she or he went to a funeral, so does one have good luck and abundance if one is named he came at a good time. So that is, you know, a view from someone who is being interviewed. Let's continue. Also, you find this in Yoruba, so names have an influence. There's an expression, Orukon Roni, which is to say the name is having a deep psychological influence on the person. Global? Very good. So here's a proverb that says, Orukon Roni, Akwejan Roni, one's name affects one's character, one's war name determines how one behaves. Let's continue. So what happens when we take on a name like the word Africa, which is essentially meaningless, but I'll go into that. So Africa comes from Latin, Africa, terra, African land, coming from, some people think it comes from Afer. There's a Phoenician cognate with the Arabic Afar, dust. Let's continue. And when they referred to Africa, they only were talking about after they defeated Carthage, Cartadas, then they decided to refer to their conquered province as Provincia Africa Proconsularis. The proconsul is like the pro-vice chancellor, is like a vice, right? So this thin strip of land was the only thing that was referred to as Africa, but through a process known in Greek as synecdoche, or in Latin known as pars pro toto, it means that you take a small part and you use the name of the small part to refer to the whole thing, whether or not that's the real name of the thing or not. Let's continue. Boom, boom. So this is the Battle of Zama, the destruction of Cartadas, as you see depicted here. Let's continue. So I've gone to various, you know, etymological scholars. Some say the exact origins of the word Africa are contentious. It was first used by the Romans to describe that part of the Carthaginian Empire, which lies in present-day Tunisia, just really northern Tunisia to speak of. So when they conquered Carthage, they decided to refer to it as Africa Proconsularis. Let's continue. So this is a world map of the Portolan Atlas, 1544, showing only a small portion of North Africa marked as Africa, right? It wasn't even used. Sometimes they would use terms like Ethiopia, that's coming from the Greek term. They would use the term Libya, which ultimately is derived from Medunetia, coming from the word Rebu. But you had all these different terms to refer to it. When you say Ethiopia, it's literally saying the land of those of burnt faces. But again, even that isn't our own word. It's not our own language. But our own word would actually tell us who we are, and what we're supposed to do. Let's continue. So all historians agree that it was the Roman use of the term Africa for parts of Tunisia almost 2,000 years later that gave the continent its name. Let's continue. There are some theories that say it comes from Berber people like the Afri, the Afar, and Ifir. There are some that say it comes from Afri, the Roman-derived term. Let's continue. Others say it comes from the Greek word Afrike, meaning without cold or without horror. Others say it comes from the Latin word for sunny, namely aprica. Let's continue. However, for most of the history, the Roman word Africa was not used to describe the continent as a whole, right? They would usually use that one. They would usually use Libya, Ethiopia, Sudan, or Guinea. This is the Arabic term and so forth. So they use different terms to refer to the continent as they came to know about it. Let's continue. Some European cartographers who tended to privilege Latinate derivations above others, they decided to use the Roman terms for the region, right? So even though Libya was still used, the Greek term Libya was still used, they decided to use the Roman term. Let's continue. But what all of the etymologies have in common is that they do not tell you who the land belongs to or who should benefit from that land. When we say Abibi mine, it tells you something that this is the land for Abibi for. When we call this land in Yoruba Ile, Adulawo, it tells you that this is the land for Adulawo, literally black people. In our own language like Wolof, when we call it Real Nit Kunyul, it tells you that this is the land for black people. In the Bambara language, Bambanakan, we eat Bambara beans here in Ghana. The Bambara language of Bambanakan, they'll call it Farafina, again referring to it as the land of black people. And in Kemet, when we call it the land of black people. If we understood it that way, it would be very difficult for Dutch Shell to come and steal our oil, or the Beers to come and steal our diamonds, because we'll say, what are you doing here? This is the land of black people. But let's continue.
Excuse me?
Yeah?
Could you repeat that, please?
Yes. So when we call this land the land of black people, there are certain things that come about from us understanding that this is the land that is supposed to be for black people, right? But when we call it Africa, there's no meaning to it. This means that you can have Arabs who just got here in 639 CE who are part of the African Union. And meanwhile, Haiti, which applied to join in 2016, is excluded because they don't happen to be on the continent now referred to as Africa. But if we understood it as Abibiman, then we would understand that Haiti is also Abibiman. We would understand that Jamaica is also Abibiman. We would also understand that all these neo-colonial fragments are Abibiman, the land of black people. But because we're operating with a name that doesn't mean anything, anyone can come in, whether they are Dutch Boers, whether they are whoever, and they can say, oh, I'm in Africa, I'm African, so therefore all your diamonds are mine, all your platinum is mine. So we'll come back to that. Global? 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 Boom, boom. I heard you were ready for that one, my sister. I heard you were ready. So we'll go into the etymology of Kemet on the other hand. Let's continue. So as I showed you before, it comes from the root word Kim, which translates to black. Kemet, the black land, and then Kemet, Egyptians is what they call it, but literally it's the exact same black. Man, woman, plural, the same black people, literally is what we used to call ourselves. And I'll show you some photographs to show you the reason why we called ourselves black people over 4,000, 5,000 years ago. Let's continue. Back one. So these are photographs that I took. I took over 15,000 photographs in what I now refer to as occupied Kemet, what some of you may know as Egypt, right? Now, these photographs will let you know the reason why we called ourselves black people, but how many of you have seen these photographs as opposed to how many of you have seen movies like Prince of Egypt versus The Mummy? How many of you have seen The Mummy? How many of you have seen whatever, the Exodus movie and all of these things? There's a reason why they don't want to show you photographs. There's a reason why they want to show you illustrations and British people with British accents playing the Pharaoh, right? But none of that is true or accurate. This one actually looks a lot like my wife. I think at the end of the prayer, someone called the name of this divinity, the opening prayer. What did you say at the end of the prayer? Someone say amen or something like that. That's him. That's what he looked like. Maybe that's why your prayers actually work, is because you're calling on the most powerful divinity in classical Kemet. Let's continue. So this is Mamsiah Khan the Joke. He says the Egyptians had only one term to designate themselves, Kemet, the Negroes literally. This is the strongest term existing in the Pharaonic tongue to indicate blackness. Let's continue. And you find this in the pyramid text as plural. You say you stand in front of the Kemetu like the Apis bull, and the Apis bull was depicted as a black bull, and this is Sarah Pepi who inscribed this in stone over 4,000 years ago. Let's continue. Again, you see this is a determinative that you see translates as Kemet. They translate as Egypt, literally the black land, but it's not saying that the soil is black, it's saying that the people are black. And that's the reason why many of you have never heard the word Kemet before, but I know everyone has heard Egypt. Boom, boom. Let's continue. Again, you see them using the term Kim for individuals, and you see it right here in the line drawn. It says mayor, seal bearer of the ruler of Lower Kemet, unique companion, carrier of the ritual book, overseer of the servants of the Netra, the true overseer of Upper Kemet, Ni Akh Pepi, his good name, Black Happy, right? So individuals were referring to themselves as black. There are rappers like Black Thought. Imagine someone calls himself Black Thought, and then you go in there, it's a white guy with blonde hair and blue eyes. No? So we act on an individual, on a collective level, we refer to ourselves as black people. As individuals, we also refer to ourselves as black people. Let's continue. Similar thing, you see the Kim here, the Kim here. This says his son, his beloved, his praise, the seal bearer of the ruler of Lower Kemet, unique companion, overseer of the servants of the Necha, Pepi Ankh, his good name, Black Hinanit. Right? Let's continue. And for anyone who reads Coptic, I don't know if you do, but Coptic is the last stage of the language of classical Kemet. So in the Coptic Bible, they retain the exact same word with the exact same meaning. So it says, Anok ang okame ala neshwe, and purchase shwe eroe de ang okame anok. So the kame that you see in Kemet, Kem, still means black. So some of you may be familiar with this line from the Song of Songs, also known as the Song of Solomon. I am black but beautiful. Don't look at me because I'm black. But you see the kame is the exact same. Kam, it means the same thing. It has the same phonological form. Boom, boom. Global. 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 Oh. Let's continue. Again, we're looking at Mam Serhan Diop. The major university in Senegal is named after this scholar. The test, he did a test in order to prove that the mummies of classical Kemet were black people. And what he did is that he, it involved the acquisition of specimens consisting of a few square millimeters of mummified skin, which were then coated with ethyl benzoate and exposed to natural ultraviolet light. This procedure rendered the melanin granules in the skin specimen fluorescent, thus enabling them to be counted by Diop, who stated that the experiments show a melanin level which is non-existent in the white-skinned races. Let us simply say that the evaluation of melanin level by microscopic examination is a laboratory method which enables us to classify the ancient Egyptians unquestionably among the black races. But our name for ourselves would have told you that already. Boom, boom. Global. Global. I love my backup singers. So why does any of this matter? One is that the world's oldest mathematical text was found in classical Kemet. The world's first writing system, and these are examples of the first writing system that you now know as hieroglyphs, found in Kemet, which predates Mesopotamia by some 200 years. The world's first known multi-genius, Imahu Imhotep. You will have heard that name in a movie called The Mummy, where he's depicted as a murderous killer. Imagine if you took their ancestors and said, here's a murderous, rapist, killer. They'll be up in arms, but that's what they do to us. The world's largest pyramid, the world's first medical text, the world's first female ruler, Nesu Biti Sobat Neferura, the world's first unified nation, the world's first female physician, Imahud Heseshet, the world's first monumental stone pyramid, right? All of this is found in Kemet, but when you say Egypt, you just think about the Arabs who are there now. Even though you look at the Egyptian football team and say, oh, I guess that's the ancient version of that. Meanwhile, we know the exact date that they got there. 639 CE under the Caliph Umar is when they got there. Let's continue. Boom, boom. I like that. So a key concept in our own languages is one of blackness. As I mentioned, Obibidi, Abibi4, Abibi mine, Abibi Drew. So Obibini translates to black person, coming from the Bibi, the root is black, and it comes from the root word from Bidier, the word for charcoal. Those tree speakers will know that word. Abibi4, same thing. Abibi mine, this is saying literally the land or nation of the black. It's the same thing as Kemet in terms of the semantic value. Abibi Drew, you're saying the medicine of black people, right? You're not saying that the soil is black, you're saying that it's referring to the land of black people. And when you look at how we are, that's the reason why we call ourselves that. Now, many modern day scholars will say, oh, you only started calling yourselves black in reaction to white people calling themselves white. However, our ancestors, or I should say our great-grandsters, left a written record. And even though many of us don't learn how to read Medu Neter, those of us who do know how to read, we can actually access that and we can give it to those who are yet to learn how to read it. Let's continue. Same thing in Yoruba. The du part of this is a word for charcoal, the word for blackness. So Adulawo is a word for black person, Ile. Adulawo, the land of black people. And when you see how we are, that's the reason why we call ourselves that. Let's continue. Same thing I mentioned in Bambara, Farafin, person, black, Farafina, land of black people, and we look at how we are. That's the reason why we call ourselves that. Let's continue. In Wolof, Nitkunyul, the Nyul is the black part. Nyul is the plural of that. Real Nitkunyul, land of black people, and we look at how we are. That's the reason why we call ourselves that. Let's continue. When you look at Kikongo, spoken in Congo, of course, you have the word Ndombe as black male, black female. Bandombe is the plural of it for black people. Mandombe is the writing system of black people. And then Nsia Bandombe, land of black people. When you look at how we are, that's the reason why we call ourselves that. This is an endonym, what we call ourselves, not what someone else calls us, which is meaningless. And then also when you look at classical Kemet, Medunecha, Kemet you, black people, Kemet literally land of black people. When you look at how we are, that's the reason why we call ourselves that. Boom, boom. Haiti. Aha, aha. Let's continue. Now, even non-black people are clear that this is the land of black people because in all of their classical languages, or if we can call them that, they use similar terms. So Ethiopia comes from the land of burnt faces, referring to the black people. If you look at the Latin language of the Romans, they would use the term Niger, and that's where the modern nations, Niger and Nigeria, are coming from in terms of the word. And this is a depiction of Hannibal crossing the Alps on his elephant. In Arabic, they would say Bilad al-Sudan, land of the blacks, and that's where the modern day states of Sudan and South Sudan get their names from. So what's interesting is that, if you can go back one, what's interesting is that even though, go forward one. Okay, I think we, okay, this one. I think what is interesting is that even though Arabs occupied most of what is now referred to as North Africa in their own language, they still say that this is Bilad al-Sudan, the land of black people. But that brings up a question of what are you doing here then? Boom, boom. Haiti. Let's continue. And again, this is a dictionary screenshot again to show that the word Kim translates to black. Kim, also used for completion. The idea is perfection. When you're talking about black, it's not that here are partial colors or whatever. It means that you've combined everything together to be complete, to be perfect, to be at its maximum. Also, Kemet, they translate that as Egyptians, but literally it's the exact same word that you said, just means black, right? So black, man, woman, plural, that's how you get literally black people. And then here, Kemet, referring to a land of black people, just as you see in all of our other languages. Boom, boom. Haiti. Global. Kemet. Global. Kemet. Global. Kemet. My single is going to drop soon, so be on the lookout. So this is what you see again in the photo, and what we say is not Egypt, but Kemet. It's very important that we use our own words because, again, our own words describe, define, direct, delineate, and every other thing that we need to do for ourselves. Let's continue. Now, you have, starting in the 1800s, academic malpractice and intellectual fraud. Now, up until the 1800s, everyone on the entire planet Earth was very clear that Kemet was only black people. Everybody. The Greeks would say it. You know, you had all of these testimonials, Herodotus. Everybody is saying these are black people. There's no debate. But once they started to translate the language, and they started to understand the depth in terms of mathematics and science and so forth, then they said, hold on. They're black in color, but they're really white people. This is what we call academic malpractice and intellectual fraud. So let's quote one of these frauds from 1839, which is the older brother of Champollion, who translated the Rosetta Stone, or is credited as such. He says, the Egyptians had black skin and woolly hair, yet these two physical qualities do not suffice to characterize the Negro race. And Volney's conclusion as to the Negro origin of the ancient Egyptian civilization is evidently forced and inadmissible. So anyone who wanted a pass out of the black race, then you got it. Because having black skin and woolly hair isn't enough to make you black. So if you ever wanted to be a white guy, this guy is there for you. He'll give you, I don't know, an ID card to show. This is a similar thing. Negroes were numerous in Egypt, but their social position in ancient times was the same as it now is, that of servants and slaves. We're going to show you photographs of the rulers of Kemet. And we're going to see if that is accurate or not. Boom, boom.
Haiti.
Now he mentions Volney. Let's go to the next slide. We'll mention what Volney is saying. So Volney is saying, this is published in 1791. He says, just think that this race of black men, today our slave and the object of our scorn, is the very race to which we owe our arts, sciences, and even the use of speech. Just imagine finally that it is in the midst of peoples who call themselves the greatest friends of liberty and humanity that one has approved the most barbarous slavery and questioned whether black men have the same kind of intelligence as whites. So again, this is in the late 1700s. Up to that point, everyone is clear these are black people. There's no debate. Now there's a controversy. Are they black or are they just dark-skinned white people? Let's continue. Now this is a photograph that I took in a museum, what they call the Egyptian Museum. This is another photograph. And I said, will the real Nefertiti please stand up? Has anyone ever seen this depiction? This bust of Nefertiti? Let's pretend that it's not a forgery. Let's pretend, very briefly, that it wasn't created in 1911. Let's pretend that. I have a question. Why have you only seen this one and you've not seen that one? This is the one carved in stone that you can only find when you go there yourself and take a photograph yourself. Look at her lips, look at her nose. How come you've never seen, or have you seen this one before? Let me ask. Yeah. You haven't seen that one? No. You have? Yeah. Yes, you've seen this one. Now, once we add in that this is clearly a forgery made out of what they call plaster of Paris, the same thing they use to make ceilings. Yeah. The wife of the ruler would be carved in stone. The wife of the ruler would be carved in stone. They wouldn't use some plaster of Paris in order to do some garbage like this and then make some clear markings to make it look like it's more old than it actually is. That's one. In 2013, they said, oh, we're going to use a computer-generated image of Tutankhamun, King Tut, as they call him. We're going to make a computer-generated image, and we're going to make him look like the Arabs who are there right now. Well, how come they don't use the image that was carved by people who looked at him at the time that he was living? Which one do you think would be a more accurate depiction of people who looked at him? Or computer scientists who are looking at Arabs who are sitting there right now and saying, oh, I think they look like Arabs. Boom, boom. So let's continue. And that's my site, bbtumi.com, for those who are interested. And this is what we call gaslighting, aka the discipline of Egyptology. Egyptology means gaslighting, and gaslighting means Egyptology. There's no difference. Those are synonyms. So gaslighting is a form of psychological manipulation that seeks to sow seeds of doubt in a targeted individual or in members of a targeted group, making them question their own memory, perception, and sanity, using persistent denial, misdirection, contradiction, and lying in attempts to destabilize the victim and delegitimize the victim's belief. Again, these are synonyms. Egyptology means gaslighting, and gaslighting means Egyptology. So anyone who thought that science was objective, or academia, or as some of us prefer to call it, crackademia, is objective, you have another one coming. Let's continue. And this is gaslighting. This is gaslighting. That is Imhotep, supposedly. We just saw a picture of him blacker than 1,000 midnights as carved by the people who are looking at him, but in the movie, this is the guy who they choose to portray him. Gods of Egypt.
That's the worst movie ever.
Prince of Egypt. Doesn't he look like the Arabs who are there right now? I don't even know what this is. Does anyone know this movie? Have you seen this movie before? Exodus, Let My People Go. Have you ever seen that? Why are they making illustrations as opposed to taking photographs and showing you the photographs? Why are they making illustrations? Why are they doing forgeries that have absolutely nothing to do with the artistic style of classical Kemet? That anyone who's even a child will see that these are plaster of Paris forgeries as opposed to carved in stone as we used to do it back in the good old days. So this is, again, as we talked about, Egyptology means gaslighting. Boom, boom.
Haiti.
Boom, boom.
Haiti.
Boom, boom.
Haiti.
All right. So this is Obinfo Manu Ampim, where he talks about the whitening of ancient Egypt, right? So this is supposed to be an academic book that he's now critiquing. So he says, Eric Hornung mislabels the black skin group A as Nubians, even though the text clearly reads Remech, the Kemetiu, the Egyptians. So here it clearly reads Remech, referring to the Egyptians. However, he says, oh, those are Nubians. This is an academic scholar, PhD holder, professor at a university, you know, esteemed and so forth. He's literally lying through his teeth, knowingly. It is clear that Hornung both distorts and mislabels the scene and is not a reliable source on the Ramesses III tomb scene. Frank Yorko also misrepresents the Ramesses III scene in the same ways as Hornung. Yorko presents the same three distortions, and he mislabels the black skin group A as Cushites, despite the textual evidence, which is right here. But what he knows is, all of you all are illiterate. Your ancestors invented writing, but you only know how to read the Latin script. And the Latin script was derived from the Greek script, and the Greek script is derived from what your ancestors invented. But how many of us sitting in this room know how to read the writing system that your ancestors invented? I do. And I actually teach it here at the Institute of African Studies. Boom, boom.
He's the only one with that at the door of his office reading the African script.
Yeah, at the front of my office, I actually have Medu Netra for my name and title and position. So again, you see Remech as it is depicted, men, mankind, used to designate the Egyptians, right? That's what you just saw on the last slide, Remech. Global?
Yeah, man.
Let's continue. And then here you see the Remech depicted as this, the Remech depicted as that, and the ruler Ramses Meri Amen depicted the same way as this. Is this a dark-skinned white man? Is this a dark-skinned white man? Is this a dark-skinned white man? I got, matter of fact, my man who spoke earlier, you look a lot like this guy. Let's continue. So the first, go back one. So the first on the bottom right, you see Chamhu, that's referring to the Eurasians who had invaded into the land of black people. The second from the right and top rows, Nubians, right, Nahasiu. The third from the right on the top and bottom rows, the Asiatics, as they call them, here and here. And then the fourth from the right, the Remech, men, mankind, Egyptians. And what's interesting is that the so-called Egyptians depicted themselves the exact same way as they depicted the black people further to the south. Global? Let's continue. And this is a photograph. Have any of you seen this photograph before? No. Have you ever seen Gods of Egypt before? No. Prince of Egypt?
Yes.
Exodus movies? Yeah. How come they show you that, but they don't show you this? Perhaps they're altruistic. Perhaps they mean well. Let's continue. So this was done by DNA tribes. This is Tutankhamun as he was depicted by people who looked at him, right? And Amenhotep III depicted as he was by people who looked at him. Is this a white man? Is that a white man? No. You don't think so? Well, then you're in disagreement with all of Egyptology. Because they look at this and they say, that's clearly a white man. All right? But let's look at what the DNA says. We're not going to follow Egyptology. We're going to follow genetics here. So the closest relatives found of King Tut, as they call him, are found in the southern African region, right? The second closest genetic relatives are found in the African Great Lakes region. That's Rwanda, Burundi, that area. The third closest are found in tropical West Africa, right? The fourth closest genetic relatives are found in the Horn of Africa. The fifth are found in the Sahel. That's what's now Burkina, Mali, Niger. The fifth are found in the Levant, and that's where you start getting into double digits, single digits, and nothing at all. So look, the Arabs, the ones that they depict them as, are barely even on the scale whatsoever. Northwest Europeans, barely on the scale whatsoever. This means that King Tutankhamun has more in common genetically with everyone who's not there than with anyone who's still there. This means the majority of us migrated away rather than be under the hegemony of the Arabs, the Greeks, the Romans, the Persians, the Assyrians, and others who invaded into the land of black people. Boom, boom. Similar story for Amenhotep III, if you can come out, if you can zoom out a bit. That his closest genetic relatives are found in African Great Lakes region, as you see here. Second most in Southern Africa, third in tropical West Africa, fourth in Horn of Africa, so forth and so on. So again, when you look at him, look at his nose, look at his lips. Look at how he depicted himself.
Let's continue. Same thing for Ramesses III. Look at how he depicted his skin. Right? Is that a white man? Is that a white man? Not even close. And what we find is that his closest genetic relatives are found in the African Great Lakes region. That's
Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, that area, Southern African. There we go. Tropical West African, Horn of Africa, Sahel, North African. So by the time you get to North Africa, which is where we used to be located, that's occupied Kemet, you're barely even on the scale. From there, you go to absolutely nothing. So the only genetic relatives he has is the black people who stayed behind. Let's continue. So the current location of Ramesses III's relatives are found here, 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 here. And by the time you get here, there's nothing on the scale. Nothing statistically significant to be found in the place where he used to be located. Boom, boom. Global. 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 Baby, baby, baby. Oh, sorry, my bad. Had my R&B flashbacks. Let's continue. And you have, just as we depicted ourselves in classical times, you still have people who look just like that to this day. And these are the ones who they're saying, oh, those are the black people, but we depicted them as they used to look like, and we still depict them there. These are the Arabs. This is how we used to depict them. Let's continue. Now, remember that we read something from an Egyptologist who said, oh, the people of, there were numerous Negroes in Egypt, but they were all slaves and servants. Now, this is the founder of Kemet, the man who founded the nation of Kemet. Does this look like a white man to you? He actually looks a lot like Mike Tyson to me. You know, we get the stuff. Yeah, man. Yeah. Brooklyn in the house, sister. So that is Narmer. Let's continue. This is Neterichet Djoser. This is the one who the step pyramid, who I mentioned, that's the world's first monumental stone pyramid on the entire planet Earth. It was constructed for him. You can still see his skin tone, even though a lot of it has been rubbed off. You can still see his locks. You can still see his locks. So it didn't, I know some of you are from Jamaica. It didn't start with Bob Marley. I hope everyone is aware. Let's continue. This is Mentuhotep II. Does that look like a white man? This is the one who reunited Kemet after what's referred to as the first intermediate period. That's clearly a dark-skinned white man. Who else agrees? Anyone? Anyone? Dark-skinned white man? Anyone? Anyone? Okay, I guess everyone here has vision. The only person who would say that perhaps is Stevie Wonder or Ray Charles, but anyone with eyes would see exactly what he looks like. Let's continue. Yamos Nefertari. So apparently this is a dark-skinned white woman. Anyone in agreement? How are you going to be professors of Egyptology unless you agree? Again, Egyptology means gaslighting, and gaslighting means Egyptology. There's no difference. Those are synonyms. So again, how come they've never shown you photographs? Has anyone seen these photographs before? You've never seen the photographs? But you've seen Prince of Egypt. I think that's intentional. Let's say it with me. Intentional. Let's continue. This is Jehuti Mess, one of the world's foremost military geniuses. Now, I bet some of you have heard of Napoleon. Have any of you heard of Jehuti Mess? Min Khepura. I think that's intentional. And when you see how he depicted himself, right? There's no need for illustration. Show me a photograph. Let's continue.
Amenhotep III, we just looked at his DNA. This is how he depicted himself. Look at his lips. Have you ever met any quote-unquote white people with lips before? Look at the nose. Look at his skin. Bam, bam. I'm trying to get y'all out of trouble, actually. Let's continue. Let's continue. This is Queen T, right? Does that look like a dark-skinned white woman to you? Right? So the kings, the queens, apparently, that Egyptologist was incorrect because we were only their servants. But what happened then in terms of what he said, it could happen right now because there are enough Lebanese in Ghana that 2,000 years down the line will say Ghana was a white society. And then they'll only dig up one Lebanese guy and say, look, there was a white guy there, right? What's going on right now in Ghana, I think 300 quote-unquote white people just got citizenship on the last date of Nana Akufo-Addo's presidency. They can say, oh, those 300, that is the entire population. But I want to know, what does Kufuor look like? What does Nana Akufo-Addo look like? What does Mills look like? What does Mahama look like? That will tell you about what the population was. Let's continue. And this, Queen T actually looks a lot like my wife, but I digress. So Ramesu Meri Amin, also known as Ramesses II, this is how he depicted himself. Look at his nose, look at his lips, look at his nose, look at his lips. Look at how his skin tone was depicted by people who looked at him. Have any of you seen photos of this? I think most people will have seen this before, right? Let's continue. This is Ramesu Heka Inu, also known as Ramesses III. We looked at his DNA, right? Look at how he depicted himself. Look at the chin strap beard. We still do lineups like that when you go to the neighborhood barbershop, right? You can still get it just like that. Let's go. Look at Tutankhamun. Look at how he depicted himself in every single thing that you can find. He depicted himself not as a light-skinned white guy. All right, some of you may have been to California. You've seen white folks with tans. They look like they just got thrown into a pit of fire. But this guy is clearly a black kid, right? Let's continue. And then you still find, we mentioned that the African Great Lakes region is the place where you find the closest genetic relatives. This is Amenhotep III, and then this is a Tutsi man from Rwanda, right? Ramesses II and a Tutsi man. Do you see any resemblance? Yeah. Matter of fact, we still do our hair the way that we used to do crowns back in the day. Boom, boom. Boom, boom. Boom, boom.
I'm sure there are loads of questions, and so hopefully we can start with some.
Okay, all right. So let's move very quickly. There are a few things I want to show you. There's a Mangbetu woman from Congo. They do head shaping in Congo like they used to do in classical Kemet. Let's continue. And you see how we used to be depicted is how we still look to this very day, all across the board. That's Tutankhamun. Look, he's come again. This is me standing side by side with what they call the Sphinx Horem Akhet. See any resemblance? You see it, right? You see it? Let's continue. So, conclusions. Ending the gaslighting campaign. First, we aren't told anything about Kemet. If we are told anything about Kemet, it's, oh, let my people go, Exodus story. But what you'll be interested to know is that there was no Exodus, there was an expulsion. The Hyksos came as invaders to rape and ravage, pillage and plunder, and bring death and destruction, but they were driven out in the first war of black liberation. And according to Manetho, a historian, he says that those people who were driven out of Kemet, they went on to found a town that you may have heard of called Jerusalem. Now, that's what the historical record said by people who are writing it at the time it was happening, not people who revised it later on and said, oh, let my people go, imaginary people, but I digress. The little you are told show white people rampaging white mummies and bald-faced lies in the form of biblical stories, misinformation to make you distance yourself from your own great black grandcestors and ancestral legacy. If Kemet did not matter, there would be no such concerted, systematic, and intentional campaign of disinformation, misinformation, anti-information, and gaslighting, aka Egyptology. Kemet, the land of black people, matters because when black youth wake up to the truth of their ancient black ancestral past, they will change the world. Some people do not want the world to change, but would rather prefer for it to stay upside down. And again, they made sure that we don't even know which way is up. Let's continue. So in conclusion, white police are there to kill black people who are still alive, while white pseudo-scholar Egyptologists are there to kill black people who are already passed on. And you see them trying to whiten up the murals, right? Let's continue. So again, this is the African equals black test. Police kill the living, scholars kill the dead. Because you are not truly dead until you are forgotten. And I think a lot of us have forgotten. So I'm here to jog your memory. Boom, boom. Let's continue. And you can see, this is a photograph I took, you can see how they manipulate the noses, knock them off, and then try to replace them. I don't think they did a very good job. Same thing here. You can see the difference in the original stone, and then they try to make it pointy when they redo the stone there. Boom, boom. Let's continue. So in conclusions, there's a proverb in Yoruba that says, the thief says he will help you fix the doors to your house. You're happy. You also aren't suspicious. Imagine the one who just stole you, stole your history, stole your language, stole your clothing, stole your folkways, your mores, stole your spiritual system, stole everything from you. They're saying, oh, let me help you understand a little bit about how to put doors on a house. I don't think so. And again, we'll conclude with this quote: African champions must break the chain that links African ideas to European ones and listen to the voice of the ancestors without European interpreters. So there's a quote: he who gives you the diameter of your knowledge prescribes the circumference of your activity. That's for your mathematicians out there. What you do for yourself depends on what you think of yourself. What you think of yourself depends on what you know of yourself, and what you know of yourself depends on what you have been told. And I think we haven't been told very much about ourselves. And what little we have been told has been the wrong thing. Let's continue. This is a quote: every man has two educations, that which is given to him and the other that which he gives himself. Of the two kinds, the latter is by far the more desirable. Indeed, all that is most worthy in man, he must work out and conquer for himself. It is that which constitutes our real and best nourishment. What we are merely taught seldom nourishes the mind like that which we teach ourselves. That's Nana Carter G. Woodson, Miseducation of the Negro. Next slide. Next slide. Are we frozen? And then Nana Malcolm X says, of all our studies, history is best qualified to reward our research. Let's continue. We really are at the conclusion, believe me. So the name we adopt influences our thinking. One's thinking influences one's behavior. We will either behave as though our land is the land of black people and that this is a land or that this is a land conquered as a province of non-blacks. When we say Africa, we're saying this is a province of the Romans. When we say Kemet, we're saying this is global. Now you're paying attention. So what is the importance on an individual or collective level? That's a question to you as we come to the Q&A. Africa was not adopted through self-determination and self-agency. Sankofa, Kemet was our original name, and it directs us to correct behavior. So we need to define ourselves on our own terms. Let those terms define the course of action we should take psychologically, culturally, historically, economically, educationally, health-wise, spiritually, socially, politically. And this is a quote by Nana Steve Biko where he says that real black people are those who can manage to hold their heads high. He says black consciousness is in essence the realization by the black men of the need to rally together with its brothers around the cause of their operation. Now, his idea, that wasn't the first time that was done. The first idea of that was in classical Kemet, of us coming together on the basis of being black. Boom, boom. Next slide. Nana Paul Bogle, has anyone ever heard that name before? Yes. He said, cleave to the black. So Nana Paul Bogle forced those conscripted into the Morant Bay Rebellion to swear an oath of loyalty to him. One of the policemen reported that his oath had included affirming that he would cleave to the black and cleave from the white. This means that we're going to organize ourselves on the basis of being black people. The first time that happened wasn't in Jamaica. The first time we did that was in classical Kemet. Let's continue. This is the 1905 Haitian Constitution, which says that Haitians shall henceforward be known only by the generic appellation of blacks. The first time that idea came forth wasn't in Haiti. The first time it happened was in classical Kemet. Let's continue. And this is a quote by noted historian Chancellor Williams' Destruction of Black Civilization. He says, "The whites are the implacable foe, the traditional and everlasting enemy of the blacks. The compelling reason for publicly putting this declaration in its historical context is clear. The necessary re-education of blacks and a possible solution of racial crises can begin, strangely enough, only when blacks fully realize this central fact in their lives. The white man is their bitter enemy. For this is not the ranting of wild-eyed militancy, but the calm and unmistakable verdict of several thousand years of documented history." This is one of our foremost historians. And Nana Malcolm X also says we have a common enemy. We have this in common. We have a common oppressor, a common exploiter, and a common discriminator. But once we all realize that we have this common enemy, then we unite on the basis of what we have in common. And what we have foremost in common is that enemy, the white man. He's an enemy to all of us. I know some of you think that some of them are enemies. Time will tell. Boom, boom. But the first idea of that wasn't Nana Malcolm X or Nana Chancellor Williams. The first idea of that was in classical Kemet. So the same way that they have an Arab League, where is our Black League, right? This is the full extent of global, global, global. And that idea of the land of black people requires conceptual repatriation more than even physical repatriation. Let's continue. So conceptual repatriation, back to Africa versus Ir Inka Ut or Kemet, make your return to the land of black people. So my question to you is, what do you think the way forward should be for global? 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 In conclusion, Madame Wase, Eshe Auniche Mantono Mamingi, Dua, Asantini Saram, Murakoze, Jerengenjef, Nyaye Waladon, Akwe Nami. Appreciate y'all. Obeshida.
I thought you guys were rising and just giving up, 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 giving up. All right, let's give Crawford a very big boom boom. Boom boom. All right, let's chill out. Let's sit for just a minute. And, wow. That's a wow. Okay, we're gonna do a wow, a quick one. When I do this, like, wow. Let's go. Wow. 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 All right, guys. Leaders, distinguished leaders, this is genius. That's my word. And secondly, this is executive education at its best. You don't have to agree to every single thing that is there. At an executive education level, you pick, you argue, you make your case, but this is mind-blowing. I believe Prof has rocked our thinking, shaking our thinking and all of that. And so much wisdom, so much insight. I don't know the kind of brain you have. And you're such a hero. So we're going to do some quick questions. Big Chief is here. So please, let's be on our feet. Let's all be on our feet. Let's welcome the Big Chief. We'll let the king sit, please, here. Please let the king. Please invite the king to sit. Thank you. And we'll introduce him shortly. All right. Put your hands together. Another boom, boom. Boom, boom. Please take your seat. And let's take some quick questions. Let's take some very quick reflections questions. And then,
Just want to say thank you. I feel like I learned a lot, and I'm grateful for my son, too, as he emerges. So I first want to just say thank you, and I feel like for my son, I have like 10 pages of notes, and I kind of recorded your lecture too, so I could go back and listen to it. So I feel like I learned a lot, and I'm gonna this is gonna be. We met you at the Gateway to Africa course, and it opened a pathway to keep learning and building. And I think this time I'm gonna continue to build on the paradigm that you helped to build within my brain.
All right, thank you. I have 3 questions. You can answer as you are able. In this safe space, could you briefly comment on black people referring to themselves and others as niggers? Number 2, is it that the only way to view whites is as bitter enemies? While it helps you to be protective based on past experiences, is war the only way forward? And number 3, is there any cultural significance to your outfit?
So the first one, in terms of us referring ourselves to ourselves as any names that are not our own, all of that is detrimental. Whether it's the N-word, whether it is as Americans, whether it's as any word that is not our own, all of those things are not going to direct us as they should, because what we conceptualize for ourselves is intentionally designed to direct us, to define us, to delineate, to all of those things that are very important for us. So, you know, that one is derived from Latin, as is Africa. So whether we call ourselves the N-word or whether we call ourselves Africans, all of those are names that are given to us. Those are exonyms. Those are names that are given to us by someone else. And again, just as Nana Carter G. Woodson says, what someone that gives you isn't going to nourish you in the sense of that which you gave yourself. So like on an individual level, I know a lot of people who have come to that conclusion where they're like, you know, why should I call myself John McGillicuddy, right? Why should I call myself, you know, some name that has no connection to who I am as a person? And a lot of people change their names. In my case, my name Obadele, that was given to me by my parents at birth, right? They were like, you know, if we're black people, why do we have these names like Lord and Carrie and whatever, whatever? So that was an intentional decision even from birth. So again, the name that we call ourselves on an individual level directs us, but as we saw in classical Kemet, the name that we gave ourselves collectively also had an impact on what we did as a people. And just in terms of viewing quote unquote non-black people as a bitter enemy, in classical times, we referred to ourselves as black people, but we didn't refer to them as white people. We use the term Amu, which is foreigners, and it refers to those who are foreign to the land of black people. And for the first 2,000 years solid, we made sure that Kemet was the land of black people, that we actually built walls to keep non-black people out of the land of black people. You had a paradigm shift around the time of Sarah Jehuti-Mess, whose image you saw up there, who I mentioned was a great military genius. When people say Armageddon, it comes from the name Megiddo, and Megiddo was the place that he conquered so thoroughly that it looked like the end of the world. So even when you get the word Armageddon, so very, very good militarily. But what he decided to do was what used to be done internally to ourselves as black people, is that when you defeat a people, you take the princes of those people and you bring them into your society to raise those princes up so that when they go back to sit on their thrones, they're beholden to you in some way, shape, or form. And you have that even up to like Osetutu, like him going to Akwemu, like that was a common practice. But what happened with that paradigm shift is that we started to allow non-black people into the land of black people. And the fact that we don't even know that Kemet is black people, it shows you what the end result of that is. Now, my father says history teaches us how not to be a fool twice. So if we know that the same Greeks who we taught, and some of you may not be familiar with this, but Solon, the lawgiver of the Greeks, he actually came and studied in Kemet. Plato, the philosopher, came to study in Kemet. And actually, in the laws, he actually talks about how many drachma he had to pay in order to come and study in Kemet. Pythagoras, the mathematician, came to study in Kemet. Thales, supposedly their first philosopher, came to study in Kemet. Every single one of the Greeks, you know, of any note came to study in Kemet. However, what you learn is that those exact same Greeks were the ones who came as conquerors. So essentially, if we understand that when we kept Kemet as the land of black people, it was strong, what happens when we allow them to come in? It's the exact same story everywhere, and that's the book, The Destruction of Black Civilization. The author, who referred to them as the bitter enemy, he actually does a study. Again, it's a very good book for anyone who's interested, that every single time we allowed them in, it ended up in the destruction of the civilization. That's in classical Kemet, that's in Kilwa, that's in Aksum, that's in what's now Ghana, the Gold Coast. What happened after they set up their dungeons that had a church right there in the middle? How did that work out for us? What happened in Tanganyika
where you had the Maji Maji Rebellion where they shot down black people with machine guns. What happened in Namibia where they came in, where they started the first concentration camps and they issued the first extermination order to exterminate all of the Herero off of the face of the planet Earth. What happened every single place that they set foot. So clearly, the only way is not to see them as a bitter enemy. It's very clear that we can see them as, oh, you're my trading partner. But those exact same trading partners will go back to the Berlin Conference, chop up your land, and then they will steal your people, they will steal your resources. So again, we can see what happens when we see them as a bitter enemy and how that works out for us. What happens when we see them as good buddies and how that works out for us. And we can choose which one is in our own best interests. The last, and so this is, I'm actually installed as a traditional ruler in Equiapim Mampon. That's Bamuchidamhene, and that's the ruler of the rear guard. So this is basically in a military formation. You have the left flank, the right flank. You have Adontin, there in the center. You have Kafo in the front. You have the Chidom, which is like the last stage of defense in a military formation. So I am Chidom Hene, which is like the ruler of the rear guard. I don't like the term chief for the same reason why I don't like the term hut, why I don't like the term jungle, why I don't like the term tribe, because in the English language it's designed to denigrate us as a people. So actually in 1821, the British actually made a proclamation where they said that the only one who can be referred to the king as the king is the king of the Brutish. That everyone else has to be called a chief, right? So you have the Indian chief, they'll call it that, in Africa, or all you chiefs and so forth. So this is, again, what happens when we take on names that aren't in our own language, that is used to denigrate us. It doesn't show us who we are or whose we are or what it is that we're supposed to do.
Sorry.
All right, we take the very final.
Really quickly, what is the one book we should gift ourselves if we want to continue? And what is the one book we should gift the young person in our life to begin their study?
Very good. So I mentioned the book, The Destruction of Black Civilization, for anyone who's interested in history and actually how it relates to us in contemporary times. I would refer The Destruction of Black Civilization. I have a book coming out called The Construction of Black Civilization, and it deals with that first 2,000 years in the history of Kemet, and it's dealing with primary source textual references translated from Medu Neter, so that Medu Neter is in there. That's what they call hieroglyphs. The transliteration is there, the translation is there, and it shows the lessons from each and every single text and how it's relevant to us as black people in contemporary times. So you can gift yourself Destruction of Black Civilization, or you can gift yourself Construction of Black Civilization. That will be coming out this year.
Awesome. I definitely can't skip Professor Hancock, please.
So while I'm aware of my ancestors' roots in Kemet, I'm also tied intrinsically to my parental ancestors in the United States. And the contribution, the blood, the power, and the movement of making the country what it is today. So how do you square, because I understand this idea of America and I understand this idea of Black American, but how do you square the respect and the toil and the work that I've seen my mother, my grandparents do to make this country, make America what it is, even though they're not recognized for that? I've been raised in this space where you don't leave the ground that you toiled. We fought for this. And while we're not recognized, I cannot leave their blood on that ground and say, I am not that. So how do you square that space?
So one thing is just in terms of how you identify yourself, not you specifically, but speaking generally, that to name oneself after Amerigo Vespucci is problematic. That's one. But then on the actual level, there's a book that Nana Bafo Amankwati, also known as or Bimfo Asa Hilliard, used to recommend. It was called Tribes by Joel Kotkin. And the central lesson in that is that all of the quote-unquote global tribes that are going to run the entire earth are the ones that go to other places or are located in other places, and they contribute to building up their homeland. So he gives examples of the Israelis. No matter where they are, they're diamond cutting, they're doing whatever, but they're always building up, the land that they've stolen. That's Israel. He gives an example of the Chinese. No matter where they are, they're sending remittances. They're doing everything to build up China. He looks at East Indians. Wherever they are, they're, you know, building up India. Everyone does that. I feel like there's not enough of that, even if those, you know, choose to be in the United Snakes of a murderer, that, you know, there's still a means, and I think what you're doing right now is an example of that, of building up the land of black people. Because as Nana Marcus Garvey has intimated, as Baba Omowale, Malcolm X has intimated, no black person will ever be respected anywhere in the world until, quote unquote, Africa is a world power, as I would say, you know, global Kemet. Nana Marcus Garvey in African Fundamentalism, publication of his, he envisions a, what he refers to it as the great Negro empire upon which the sun will never set. That is to say, you know, you have black people in Haiti, you have black people in Jamaica, you have black people in the United States, you have black people all throughout the entire planet Earth. And this, when you look at the 1900 Conference on Pan-Africanism, the resolutions that came out from it, it mentions that there should be a great central Negro state. And they mention Congo as that as a possibility. So my idea is that even those who don't want to leave the United Snakes of a murderer, there are other ways that you can build up the land of black people, because otherwise we'll keep getting knees on our necks, we'll keep getting shot down the street, and there'll be no one to bring to bear that you're not allowed to do that. They're not doing that to the Chinese, the Indians, or any of these global tribes who are building up their homeland. So this is why I would like to say Pali, shout out to Pali, because they're doing things to help us build up the land of black people so that, you know, wherever we are on the planet Earth, we can walk with respect, dignity, and so forth and so on.
Anyone, I just want one person that feels like you got something really strong out of it, you know, to volunteer and say something. But before to say that, we're moving into the traditional. So can you say something about the Ghanaian traditional, you know, the kinship, you know, the forward god, just in 1 minute, something about the Ghanaian kinship system.
Okay. So the word for a traditional ruler is Ohene. Ohene. That's in Chi, of course. So the idea is Ohene is the one who is the descendant of the first person to go to that land, right? So usually they would have an expression, and it's a proverb that say, "Nehoya henese en sasono," and it translates to that person's body is itchy like the stinging nettle. This means that they went into the bush before the bush was cleared. They know all of the boundaries, and their descendants are referred to as Odishye. Eshye is the boundary. So Odishye is saying the person who possesses the boundary. So everybody who is there in that, you know, traditional area is the descendant of the first one to go there, and their descendants are the ones who own the boundaries of that land and actually know where the boundaries of that land are. So when we lose a lot when we use words like chief, right? Because look at the worldview that goes into what we call ourselves and the meaning in that, as opposed to you're a chief. Why am I a chief? Because you're not the king. The king is this white guy. You're a chief. So, you know, just in terms of the structure you have, as I mentioned, things are structured in lines of a military formation. So Trafohene will be the ruler of the front guard, right? Adontenhene would be the ruler of the central mass of the army. You have Nifahene, which is the ruler of the right-hand side. The Benkumhene is the ruler of the left-hand side. The Chidomhene is the ruler of the rear guard. And then you also have Ankobiahene, which is wherever that army goes, there's a guard that's left by so that the army doesn't go around them and then destroy your capital behind you. That actually happened in past military formations. And what you find is that we always structure things like this. So if you go to a shrine, you'll find the Ohene, the Nifa, the Benkum, the Ochame, and so forth. And it's similar to if you go to the United Snakes, for example, they structure things in alignment with their understanding of a political system. So whether you are talking about Congress and the government, whether you're talking about an organization, they're going to have a president, they're going to have a vice president, a treasurer, and so forth. So they've replicated their idea of what governance structure is at every single level. It's almost like virus, right? It's almost like fractal, that no matter what level you're at, that's your conception of how you should structure things. It's a similar thing here, that our conception of how we should structure things is you have the overall Ormaihene, Benkum, Nifad, Trafo, so forth and so on. That is how we structure things.
Thank you very much. Who's going to go for us? Who's going to go and help do the quick appreciation? Hey, who's doing us the honors quickly? Very quickly. Miss Avanel, yes.
I just want to say thank you for what you have presented from the language, the history.
Sapiens were in what's now modern day Morocco. That's before any mutations happened to make non-black people. So that's there. But when people say the sixth region, I have a major problem in that the sixth region can be an ATM, but it can't be a full member that can vote and make decisions. Meanwhile, Morocco, which is still enslaving black people to this very day, can be a 100% full member with absolutely no issues.
So there's more to do.
If there's going to be a sixth region, it has to be substantive. It can't just be you give us your money and you don't have a vote. That's taxation without representation, and that's grounds for war. Taxation without representation is grounds for war for some people.
All right. One more boom boom. Boom boom. Haiti. Aha aha. Another one. Boom boom. Haiti. Aha aha. Distinguished leaders, it's my honor at this juncture to acknowledge, some very incredible people of Pali. We do have our chancellor in the house, Mr. Ade Adebajo. Let's give him a boom boom. T, aha, aha. And of course, we have our director for development, Dr. Genevieve Pearl. Boom, boom. Aha, aha. And of course, we have our dean. Our dean, where's our dean? Our dean is in the house as well. Our dean, Nina, is already on the call. Let's give her a boom, boom. She's not feeling too well, but she's going strong. We have our information officer, the famous Mr. Prince, quiet always behind the scenes. Please, let's give him a boom, boom. Boom, boom. 80. Aha, aha. And we have someone who's part of Pali, but he is the CEO of a very powerful educational institution in the nation of Togo. And he also, if you see lovely stuff about Pali, it's all because of him. The logo was designed by him. Like in fact, he designed me. God, he designs everything. And yet, he also runs a huge institution in the nation of Togo, Mr. Achu. Let's give him that big boom, boom. Boom, boom. And so we do have some key people at Pali here. Before we go to this next stage, I want to respectfully invite our chancellor forward. And we have a little something for somebody who's done. Where's our chancellor? We have a little something for someone who is, and the special guest, I'm going to go over to that side. We have a special gift for someone. And by the way, before I go there, there's something for Prof on Saturday. So please, when you see Prof at a graduation, all of you here who have benefited from his wisdom, by the way, whether you agree with everything or not, look at the amount of information in his head. I mean, it's mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing. He's got like 300 books in his head. He can rattle them all out. When we see him there on Saturday climbing the stage, please give some huge shout out to him on Saturday, okay? All right, so this gentleman is one of the finest brains in the United States. And he is a distinguished professor of education. He's done many stuff across the U.S. and around the world, literally invited, especially in Europe. He's on high demand in Europe. Universities across Europe, they're picking his wisdom on racial issues and issues of black people and Africans. And all these universities, when they want to understand Africans, they call him in Europe. And after doing that for more than 10, 12 years, he's like, you know what? I've served Europe enough. I want to now spend time in Africa. And he's done so much for the Pan-African Leadership Institute. He doesn't know anything about this. But let's invite the professor. There's only one. The professor. Please say the professor. You have to do a boom boom before I carry on. The boom boom. Boom boom. One more boom boom. Boom boom. All right, please, let's respectfully invite Professor Stephen Hancock to come up, and I want... I'll let the Chancellor do it, and the Chancellor will present it, and Professor King will also help decorating, so Chancellor will open it. A little gift for a little gift.
Yes.
You deserve it.
Boom, boom.
Boom, boom.
So we should stand well so we can do the photos.
Yes. Lovely. Global. Kemet.
All right.
That's beautiful.
We'll let Professor Madely decorating. They couldn't get better. He's a king as well. So.
Wow.
Yes.
You deserve to. I'm so proud of you. Oh.
Yes.
You look beautiful. Yes.
Oh, that's your style, Professor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Congratulations, Professor.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Please kindly take your seat.
Wow.
Yeah.
What am I supposed to do now? Just sit there. You look so you look beautiful.
All right, distinguished leaders, as you can see,
He's crying.
there is
Cry.
there are dignitaries here,
No,
and we have a quick ceremony to do, very short, and then we hear from Professor Hancock, and then we do our break, and then we carry on for the rest of the day. We have here a king. We have here a king. He is the Akwemujini of Kwaso in the Ashanti region, and he is in the person of Nana Bafo Ado Kumening, and we all will say Akwaba. Now you're not all in Akwaba, so please say Akwaba or say Nana Akwaba. Okay, so Nana is here, and of course I'm blessed to have. I can't recognize her, but my own dear wife. She's dressed like a queen. I didn't know I was a king. She's dressed like a queen. Well, Mrs. Jackie Osaikusi is now. And we have someone we've all come to love since yesterday. For those of us that have met her yesterday, she may be very unassuming here. But if you are in the United States, you know that she's done a lot of work for people of all color. She's fought for the rights of women in the States. I have been a part of her work at the Columbia University. She is the co-founder and the co-director. She is the co-founder and co-director of the Columbia University Center for Justice. As you know, the Columbia University is an Ivy League university in the U.S. And for her to have co-founded a center to combat issues of injustice in the United States, and her work has not just been in the United States. but extending it to Kenya. I was with them in Kenya and extending it around the world. She does truly deserve an honor. And on behalf of the Pan African Leadership Institute, we decided that we will do her an honor. We will not wait for other people to do her honors, but we will do her the honor on the soil on which her ancestors were taken away. And so we're going to bring her back home and honor her and let her know that she's loved. We want to encourage her because she's fought for so many women who have been incarcerated in the United States. And especially for those who are here in Ghana, we don't know so much about incarceration. And I know Americans use big words, and when you say incarceration, when you say prison, they don't like it, but we don't understand the word. English is in Ghana, when we say imprisonment, we don't understand it very much because the numbers in jail are not that many. Okay, but in the US, I think over 1 million people. Over 1 million people? Million. And it's serious. How do you put hundreds of thousands of human beings in jail? So when you have someone who is fighting and has made so much grounds, she truly deserves the honor. And if you agree to that, shall we give her a big boom, boom? We can organize the place. Please organize the place very quickly. And please, Cheryl, please take a seat. Please take a seat. And so Cheryl is going to be honored as a, please take a seat, as a queen mother. Honored as a queen mother. And so Nana will speak. Well, typically in Ghana, the chief doesn't speak directly, or the king doesn't speak, not the chief, the king doesn't speak directly to people. He speaks through a linguist. But today he's doing us the honors, and he
ɛno nti yɛbɛbɔ no atenaseɛ ne ama ne din na afei n'adwuma hyɛ aseɛ firi hɔ sɛnea wobɛtete mmaa no kwampapa so ama yɛ nyinaa.
We are here to actually put you on the seat. You've already been installed as a Queen Mother, but today we are putting you on the seat, meaning we are giving you a firm foundation so that your work as a Queen Mother, your work as a woman who would encourage other women can start from here or continue from here.
Nti sise yɛwɔ asi ahemafoɔ wɔ ha yɛ ɛbɛma ɔmo ayɛ dwumadie na mmom ansa na ɔmbɛyɛ no ne din a ɔde di akonnwa sɛ ɔhemaa no mɛbɔ de afrɛ wɔ no na mɛde akyerɛ mu nyinaa na fi ne kuro bi frɛ no a wabɔ ne din sɛ Nana Hemaa Abena Obenewa Obin ɛno ne din.
Your name is what Nana just said. So you're being given a name, and the name is Nana
Abena Obenewa
Obin
the first.
This is how you be called from now on. So we need to accord you that respect. We need to give you that kind of respect because of this name. So we are no more going to call you Her Excellency. I will call you Nana Abena Obenewa Obin the first.
Now, edino pese metrim kakra bi sene obi beti asie.
I would want to give a meaning to the name so that we can all understand.
So you can say obi ye obinfo ana obi a wabin kyerɛ sɛ ne nipa no wɔyɛ biara no wayɛ abrɛkyiri a onim yɛ na ɔte aseɛ ɔbenfo sɛ nwoma na wasua nwoma ɔbɔbɔ degree te sɛ doctor professor woyɛ ɔbenfo nti ɛnɛ Nana Hemaa tie yi yɛnim sɛ wabin wɔ nea wasua mu ɛno nti ne ɛma ne din Obenewa Obin.
Your name means that you are a woman who has learned, so you're learned. You have expertise in whatever you do. So the meaning of Obenefo or Obenewa, yours is Obenewa because you're a woman. So it means that you are a woman who has expertise, who is learned, who has all it takes to take the mantle of leadership in every diverse way.
Nti esi ahemafoɔ no wei kyerɛ mo umrai na Nana Hemaa bɛsi akonnwa so.
So these are king makers. So in your case, queen makers.
Yeah.
So they would have to ensure that the right things that we need to do, the rituals, the installation, and everything is done accordingly. So you'll be endowed in this for accessories.
Ɛno nti yɛma Nana Hemaa kente bonwere kente na kente yɛde ma no kyerɛ sɛ yɛn nyinaa yɛ abibifoɔ yɛ a free Africa yɛsɛ free Ghana na yɛntoma sɛ yɛde ma obia ma odi fra na kyerɛ sɛ wɔyɛ obi a odi ɛdɔm anim na afei wɔyɛ obi a wɔyɛ ɔkunni nti saa ntoma so bɛhu na nyɛ obiara de firifira mfira no basa sɛ nananom ati akonnwa so yi ɛne ɔmo a ɔmoyɛ akandifoɔ ne tɛfira saa ntoma nti yɛde ntoma yi ɛna ɛbɛfira Nana Hemaa no wie a yɛhyɛ ne mpaboa yi ɛnam sɛ ɔyɛ ɔbaa nti ne duku ɛwɔ ha afei ahwenneɛ yi afei ahwenneɛ a yɛde bɛto Nana Hemaa kɔn mu nie na sɛnea tie no sɛnea tie no sɛ mohunu ahwenneɛ a ɛnyɛ ahwenneɛ biara kɛkɛ nyɛ ahwenneɛ biara kwa ɔn sɛ sika ɔkɔɔ ɛna wɔ mu no na sika ɔkɔɔ nso yɛ agudi a ɛsom bo paa yie ɛma yɛn ɛwɔ abibima mu ha nti ɛno ɛne ahyɛnsodeɛ a yɛde ma Nana Hemaa wɔde ato no kɔn mu na nea aka yi nso wɔde bɛgugu n'abakɔn wɔde bɛgu n'abakɔn so Na amana danso ewo ma nyina ma kire se oyo hema.
I'll try. You know, I've said a lot, so I'll try. So typically, this cloth is called the kente cloth, and it's known to be a cloth that signifies royalty. So anytime you see this kind of cloth, although we have different variations, these particular ones are made for kings and queens. So anytime you see Nana's one is very extraordinary. Yours is also very extraordinary. So anytime you see these particular kente, it signifies royalty, and it's from Bonui in the Ashanti region. Also, we cannot just give you this. We have, because you're a woman and you're a queen mother, we'll give you scarves. The scarves are for your hair, so you tie them on the hair. And then these slippers are called native sandals, or hinima. And then we have beads and beads that are decorated with gold. And you know what gold signifies: precious stones, precious minerals. So all these would be used as part of your accessories. Anytime you're going for a gathering, these are kind of things that you use to decorate your body.
Se anima for one fancy for your son.
So now we'll hand over to the queen makers to dress her and then put her on her stool.
You look beautiful. Ebra, Edruswe. Afena, see him out for the ABC Akumiaso. Afena, see him out for the ABC Akumiaso. Let's remember, as you see, the dead room, the CC area,
So we are now giving her her seats.
They did not bet so it need to be pim some prince.
We'll give her
No.
3 times.
3 times.
So we have to sit on it 3 times.
Okay.
1,
2. 3rd one. Said Nana Hima Abba. Timmy Chisi, could be a woman Finekwa. Nana Abna, Obinawa, Obin. Nana Hima the first to move on the side. Nana Abba.
After she's been installed, what we do is to put the umbrella, which signifies.
Are you trying to record?
And anytime she's in a public place, this is how she sits, with her palanquin, with her umbrella on her. And we call her by the name Nana, or Hima, Nana, or Beniwa, or Ben, or Beniwa, or Ben, the first.
Wow.
Nana.
Congratulations.
Say, Obia, so be a bit my bechiano. Say, what Tanakunya so we to be a bit my bechiano. No, what did you say, Minister?
So now with Nana on her stool, we can come around and shake hands with her for blessings.
Okay, go ahead. Okay.
Oh, you're getting yourself here.
Sabre, you don't human situation. Nothing. Just say you read Bibia and she say Bibi over. Yeah. So, or he might be Pecan. Yeah.
At this moment, we request our queen to share a few words if she has.
Yes. I am simply overwhelmed and just fighting back tears at this time. And it's more than tears of joy, it's tears of belonging. It's tears of being home and recognized in a place that I don't even be recognized in the United States as such. So, you know, I just want to thank you for recognizing, you know, what I'm trying to do for our people, for people who are unrecognized in the country that I was born in, and just uplifting those that are excluded in so many areas because of race, because of poverty, because of just not being in the 1% of those that are in power in the country that I was born in. And so, you know, thank you for acknowledging me, and thank you for accepting me home.
From our queen mother, she's saying that she's happy, she's overwhelmed. She's more than excited. She spoke English last week. Neniaji said, ya manisa DBI. Neniaji said, ya shen in Union say. Sebe ni kuwa ya woni tu nuku. Sa DBI ya fema. Ato Diana said, kakra ono so ye wo ni kuko mu na. Ye hu a ye decide DBI man to Diana say.
Yes, you're the Nahimasi. Niawo ye no. Nyankopon sane nipa kra ebi hu. Nti ade anyame ahyehya ma ne se ene dey ye be ne sene ya ye nui. ɛna aba so saa nti yɛnso yɛda no ase na yɛn nyinaa de ase dama onyankopɔn sɛ ɛnnɛ aba ɔhema abrabɔ mu sɛdeɛ yɛayɛ.
Our chief is saying that this day has actually been ordained by God already. So it is happening because it's been written. And today we are just confirming what God has said would happen today in the land of Ghana, especially at the University of Ghana, African Studies Department. So whatever we are seeing today is what God has said, and it is coming to pass, or it has come to pass. And we also want to use the opportunity to also say thank you, because you have a good heart. You are giving to all. You are impacting your space, and you are giving back to society. And that is what we are all supposed to do as children of God, according to the purposes that He's given us on this earth. Thank you.
That's God. Will be over my vote of thanks, but I said that so we will let Prof. King here as well also give the final any message, and then we'll invite one of us to do the vote of thanks. I may fall back on Dr. Jenny. You know what, I feel like doing this. Just one moment. If anyone has a congratulatory message, you can just grab the microphone and say something, then I'll come to Prof. Because at this juncture, I think we are not going to go on. We'll just wrap up right now, and then we're going to do some group photos. We take all the photos together. So we're finishing the session here right now, but it's a chance to grab the microphone and say some congratulations. I'm just taking the mic to Mr. David, our famous Mr. David. You have to say something, sir.
I have to say,
Some kind words to
well, respect and honor to the Queen and to the King. It's the first time I'm meeting a King, and it's really good to be here in Ghana. It's nice, Professor. I need to shake your hand. It was amazing. Thank you.
Anyone else? Please pass the mic on. Definitely,
To God be the glory. To God be the glory. Queen, I'm never going to get the name. Could we say the name again together so you can teach it to me? Nana Apunua Abi the first is one of Hima Abina. Congratulations. I think that this is so well deserved. I'm so very proud of you. And we're going to go back to America and make sure that everybody is centered around the strength that you have to carry all the legacy for the women that you already lead. I appreciate it, and thank you, King, for crowning her today, for giving her this honor. And thank you to all of you. We just appreciate it so much. And to God be the glory.
So I'm so emotional, but I'm so proud of you. You're so selfless, you're so humble, and you've given your life to all of us. I've been your mentor for like 9 years. In 2016, Dr. J said, you got someone I want you to meet. And I met you, and I was so lost, like I was a lost young girl, and I didn't know where I was going, but you every idea I had, you always kept me going. Anytime I call you, you always answer, no matter what happens. And there's so many of us. There's like thousands of us. And it's like you don't ask for nothing, but you give us everything. And I've never met someone so selfless. I never met someone such a fighter. And it's like thousands of us young Black women in New York City that wouldn't be where we are without you, without Kathy, that spent hours and hours and hours and hours. And no matter how rough we are when we come to you, you make sure. I was. So no matter how rough I was when I came to you, you need no phone, you need no food. Like, you just helped me. You helped me with everything. And this moment is so, it touches my heart because you deserve this. Like, you don't ask for, you don't even know how to take it. I'm looking at you, but you deserve this. And I'm so proud of you. We love you. Ms. G, can we say the name again? Dr. G. Okay.
Yamin Shrub. You say, we are of waffle, and the man, and Manina, I will your foot. So what I've heard is that you are a helper to those women in New York. Only woman, my waffle crowd, Columbia, as your own. My own parents, they met actually at Columbia University. I was actually a for as your own at the Teachers College. It's a baby for Dano, when you say, oh dear, and my honor, when you say, oh, young one. Now, senior, we would there a 2 hard check soon, and then was I'm a actually say, why I get by. But what I've heard is that the spirit of volunteerism that you've used in order to help all of those women, you've done a very good job. And yet, if you don't take it, that what has been done for you is not just, oh, we're just doing it for fun, that this is a very huge honor. When I don't know, you don't come across someone almost that I know that your ancestors who were taken away so many years ago, their one goal and hope was to come back home. That's in your was a Abrabunaya in Cobisi, Bokwana, Obesan, see the beautiful band. And until I cast a co, Abba, a quaba, there's a walk and a wasaba. And Perifu Baby said, Bruce, you say, BBI, that I know that the most fervent wish and hope of your ancestors was to come back home. And for you to come home in this way, it means that everything has come full circle and that you have realized the foremost dreams and hopes and wishes and aspirations of your ancestors, that life is a cycle. And there's a proverb that says, the goat says, everything that will come has come already. When we say welcome, it doesn't just mean welcome, it's akok abba, which is the process of going and the process of coming. And to say, what's up, and it means that you've come back home. So I welcome you. Now that you've come, sit down with us. Now we are Nanahima Abina Obiniwa Obing Abba. That your true name is Nana Abina Obiniwa Obing Akwaba. Akwaba. Nana Akwaba.
One. And our Chancellor himself. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me start by welcoming the King and the King here. It's truly an honor to have you here. You see, when I look around, I have spoken in many big gatherings. But as I see people around here, I see a depth of knowledge, impact, greatness that I am unable to account for in certain big and large gatherings. And so I am appalled, and I thank God for such a time like this, because I'm actually moved that in this small room, we have this depth. And, you know, we may not celebrate our people often, but I celebrate you, sir. I celebrate you. These are great people. And I want us to just appreciate them and what God is doing through them, because I truly respect and honor what He has put in you, what you are doing, what you're doing, what you're all doing. What you are doing too, sir, because you made this gathering to happen like this. Please help me appreciate that. I want to also especially welcome everyone who has come from different countries. It's an honor to have you here. We love you. We see ourselves as a family, and we'll continue to treat ourselves as one. Thank you for coming. Thank you for all your efforts. Thank you for everything you do. God bless you all.
Thank you so much. We thank the queen makers as well. Let's appreciate all the queen makers and everyone. I think at this juncture, my words are done. Hey, Professor Hancock, you didn't say anything. Please say something, and then we take the photos. It's time for photos. Our powerful people here, please show us where we can stand to do all the photos. So guide us. Hey, Michael, how could you not have said anything? Professor Hancock, please. You look too good, man. You look too good. I don't know. You should go over there. I mean,
Oh, get out of here.
No, Professor, look at him. He looks too good. Gosh. Oh my gosh. You're just transformed. Look at you.
First of all, I'm overwhelmed and extremely humbled to be recognized like this, and I'm trying to keep myself together. But oftentimes I say a good teacher is a much better student. And I have been a student over the last 3 days, and particularly today. Asa here would be proud. He was my mentor. Not only a student of knowledge, but a student of culture, but most importantly, what I feel now, a student of love and a student of belonging. And I thank you all very much that I am even standing here next to our Queen Mother and next to our King. I am most humbled. And I say to you all that from this moment forth, from the knowledge we've gained today and the experiences we had over the last 2 days, the best is yet to come. And so we're going to continue to move and continue to connect home, continue to connect to our space, continue to connect to our roots. So I thank you all for everything that has transpired today. And as we said, we look forward. And before we leave, we just have to give one more round of applause to our leader, the person who has gotten us here today. Yay. Let's give him a round of applause. And so we thank you all, and I think it's time for us to have lunch.
Yes, please. Please show us where to stand.
Yes, so for the photos.
Should we move? We need to move the next one.
This is absolutely beautiful.
I'm overwhelmed. I can't hardly talk.
Trying to hold back to you.
Me too.
Oh, I was done. He always does that.
Proud of you.
Listen, let me not get my.
I'm proud of you.